Yeah, I
Okay.
agree with that. I did want to give you a perspective. I did watch all of, I would love it if you did an all-female panel. Absolutely would
Yeah.
love it. I'm a huge advocate for SA survivors, and I would love it if you did that because that's something that hit me really hard in this. But the
Sure.
reality is, I
Happy to.
watched every single female video of the hostages and the people from that day that has come out to my knowledge, right? And one of the
Yeah.
strongest things that I noticed in every single one of those was they keep saying that SA happened all over, right?
Yeah.
In the videos, though, and to me, it's the strongest form of propaganda that they're using, is that they keep saying my biggest fear was being raped, right? My
Right. Yeah.
biggest fear was an SA. And they said it multiple times. Like they were prompted multiple times to ask, did this happen to you? And I'm not saying any woman has to come out and say if that's happened to her or not, any man for that matter. I am saying that the way that it was answered for me was such a use of propaganda in that it brought discredit, more discredit to Israel and what they're doing because of how they were saying he raped me with his eyes. I was afraid that I was going to be. That was my biggest fear. But you know,
Yeah.
57 days or 52 days in captive, and that was your biggest fear,
Yeah.
is not the same
Well,
as
let
that's what happened.
yeah. Okay. That's good points, Bria. By the way, let me follow you so we can bring you onto that panel if you want to be on it for the all women. I think I'm already following you. So great. Just message me either here or on my email, and we'll include you in the panel. Thank you so much for being here. I want to make one point that's sort of a similar point to the idea that you don't have to exaggerate to get your point across or have people feel sympathy. We've all heard that anti-Semitism has been exploding since what happened with the conflict, and many people who happen to feel Jewish feel uncomfortable. I do want to say that I sympathize when a hostage is taken hostage. It has to be very traumatic. I mean, I can only imagine what that's like, especially if you're a woman and you're very vulnerable and you have a stronger man near you. That's a real perception. I don't think that means that it happened, but it means that someone might have been fearful. And I feel, it's horrible, right? You don't want to be in that kind of fear for 54 days. That's horrible. But I do want to say this: the rise of anti-Semitism is very similar, although a little less intense. But why do you think that's happened? And why is that as impactful as someone who's having a bomb dropped on their forehead? Obviously, family members unalived. Some people have lost 25, 30 family members. Obviously, I'm sensitive. I don't want anybody to be made to feel uncomfortable because they just are who they are. But at the same time, if somebody is supportive of what Israel is doing and that's happening to quote unquote your family members, I can understand why you'd be pissed and the feeling of helplessness to do anything about it. And then you see somebody walking down the street that has a pin on their shirt that says "I'm for Israel." Well, obviously, it's going to make you feel upset, or maybe they don't even have that, but they just feel like they're threatened. I just think that that's bad for them, but it's worse for people who are being unalived. That's my point on that. Okay, next was going to be Gaza Forever. Breby, I have to make room for somebody else. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate you. Gaza Forever, and that's going to be Simone. Simone, are you there, Gaza Forever? Thanks for being patient, by the way. Are you there? If you are there, I can't hear you speaking. I don't know if the audience can hear you. I can't hear you. I'll put you on hold for a second while you get your technical stuff worked out. What you may have to do, Gaza Forever, is to leave the TikTok app, come back into the live, and then that may fix the problem. I'll bring you up if you do. I won't bring anybody else up until you come through. Okay, Simone, are you there? Somena? Somen? Come on, dog. Yeah, I can't hear anybody either. That's the point. Can you all hear me? Please give me a
Yeah, I
mic
can hear
check if
you.
you can. Oh, there we go. So is this Happy Root?
Yeah. Hey, thank you
Okay,
for
hold on.
allowing me in your forum.
Hold on 1 sec, Nappy. We have to take turns in the order that people came in. Simona was next, and then we have Shaq Speaker, then User 448 Freedom Philistine, and then you're next, Nappy Root. Sorry about the wait. Just we have people that have been waiting like 20, 30 minutes to talk. Okay, Simone's not coming through. Same thing. You may need to come back in. I'll take you up if you do. We're going to go to Shaq Speaker, then User. I'm sorry, User, then Shaq. User 448817. How you doing?
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, very good. Look, first I want to comment very briefly about the lion in the lion Zion. Uh, this guy has his head so far up somewhere he doesn't see through. He has no moral leg to stand on to talk about how they treat a hostage or so. Uh, I mean, we're talking about hundreds in the incubators, kids went, thousands of people being killed and so far, and hundreds per day. We want to talk about moralities. Let's bring it into a perspective. You know, treating a hostage. Okay, maybe it was a little facade by showing the hostage saying that she is fine, coerced or whatever. But we've got hundreds, no, thousands and hundreds of children in Israeli jails held without charge, children, and these are also hostages and they're treated. I mean, let's talk about morality, bring it up to both sides. Okay, so this guy does bad and this guy doesn't do bad. Let's bring it equal. And now we're talking about a state versus an organization that sprung from an occupied, frustrated society. And when you have oppressed people and take freedoms from them and deprive them of their freedom, deprive them of their livelihoods, and ridicule them, and this produces emotion that most of the time is uncontrolled. When you have emotion, you don't have logic. So those guys from the H group, which by the way, I'm not fond of the H group because they were founded by the Israelis to start with. Okay, and then the magic it turned against the magician eventually. It's funny, and that's what Netanyahu is being dinged with right now in Israel.
Shit. Sorry, I was the background noise. I just want to
Okay,
make
I
one
can
minor
hear you now.
correction.
I can hear you now.
Yeah, sorry. I keep doing that. Sorry, everybody. One minor correction, and that is the H group was founded by 3 founding members in Gaza whose parents and family had been unalived in execution style. But it was further funded as a point for Netanyahu to fragment the political nature of the Palestinians, saying that the best way to avoid a two-state solution is by funding it. That's public statement. Did I get you off your mute? I think I did. It's going to take a little pause here. I apologize for not being when I'm muted. I'm in an outdoor place where there's a lot of traffic, so I wanted to keep the noise down. Every once in a while, I got to remember to check that every time. Yeah, so Netanyahu, by the way, is the one that's the most devious guy in the whole group. He's just that guy is bad. He is such bad news, and he's caused so many problems for Israelis over the years. He's prevented almost every peaceful possibility of this. User, I'm going to bring up Shaq until we get your microphone stuff worked out.
Hey Chip, hope you're well.
Hey.
It doesn't look if you've only got a light shirt on, so it can't be too cold where you are at this time.
No, I'm actually overdressed right now.
Oh, you got layers. You got layers. Okay, so yeah, you know what? It's very very frustrating to listen to that. What was his name? Pussy of Zion. Okay.
No, let's be respectful. Lion of Zion.
Oh, was it? Okay. A fake lion is one manufactured in a factory.
Listen, well, put it this way: he had his point of view, and I thought he shared his points in an articulate manner. He was a little bit aggressive as far as the back and forth, but he's passionate. He wants to make the record straight from his point of view. So I understand.
Yeah, but the thing is this: what they do is they create a diversion, because he was talking about the syllabus. Was that the syllabus of the schools in Gaza? Yeah. Okay. I mean, there's no relevance of that whilst boom booms are raining down indiscriminately, and people
Yeah.
have got nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. They're told to go here and there, and then wherever they go, the military turns up with massive armaments on top of their heads. And I mean, yesterday it was horrifying just watching on a live, people not knowing where to go, and the hospital and at Rafah was being
Yeah.
attacked. And you know, these people have been emboldened since the ICJ, even though that ICJ was very clear that there's, you know, they need to stop what they're doing. You would have thought that they would think, listen, guys, let's back off a little bit. We've been over the top. We've been caught out. Let's back up a little whilst this next 30 days goes on. They've ramped things up, and they keep talking about their hostages. Their hostages. Nobody's talking about the 12. Now it's now 12,000 because they picked up 5,000 in the West Bank as a punishment. Okay, there's 12,000 hostages held in the dungeons of the Zionist monster, and a 99%, what do they call it, sentencing rate. 99. I mean, there is no legal system in the world that has a 99%, guilty rate anywhere in the world. It just doesn't happen. But it only happens in this land of the chosen people, you know. And I think realistically, I think when these people start diverting the issue, I think we just have to ignore their comments and their questions and just bring it back to what is happening today. How do you justify what has gone on? The numbers, the trauma that's going on, the blockading of aid trucks. I mean, there are children losing their lives because of lack of medication, cancer treatments, insulin. Insulin is a big one. They just, yesterday, actually today, I've seen the loss of two lives. A young boy who was about 18, and a little girl who was actually having not an epileptic. She's having a fit because of the lack of a sugar, and she's on the hospital floor. She's in the hospital. There's nothing they can do unless they've got the EpiPen or whatever they call it. And this is the people who call themselves moral. They have a moral high ground. They have humanity. They have no humanity. It is incredibly painful to watch. And these people have no concern for the lives of anybody outside of their cult. And I'm going to pass on to whoever's next.
Okay,
It's
Shaquille.
really, really bad. Cheers, my friend.
Thank you.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Okay, let's let Freedom Philistine chirp in real quickly. We'll try to get back to User, and then, of course, Gaza Forever. User, actually, can you hear Shaq? I'm sorry, can you hear Freedom Philistine? Can you hear it all? Hopefully I got your mic turned on. Because sometimes people will walk away from their phone if they're just listening in the kitchen or whatever. So anyway, okay, let's go to, we haven't heard from Nappy Root. Let's let Nappy Root back in. How you doing, Nappy Root?
Hey, how you doing?
Pretty good.
Thank you for your forum, and I just, it's a shame what's in the motherland of Israel, and it's been. You would think a people that had bad things happen to them, and they turn around doing the exact same thing. It makes me wonder: is it all a smokescreen? And people are people. I mean, they call them Hamas terrorists. No, that's their land. They welcomed them with open arms, and look what they did: turn around and stab them in the back. So
Yeah.
I mean, both sides is wrong, but I tend to because the way they treated them people over there in their land like they're nothing, and look at them blew up, tore up, and you just see everybody's living in rubble. That's disgusting. That's disgusting. But it says in the book that they say they are Jews, but they are not. They are the synagogue of Satan. And they're showing that truth right now. I'm going to leave it at that.
Okay. Thanks, Nappy. Appreciate you being here. Yeah, there's a lot of questions there. I've heard that before. That I don't know. I don't want to say something that's too insensitive, but at the same time, I will say this: the more that I've learned in the years that I've tried to look at this and try to get to the bottom of it, the worse it sort of feels that the people who are from the now listen. I know that a lot of people identify as Zionists because they want to have a state that's a Jewish state that wants safety from persecution. I'm not against the concept of safety for a people. That'd be crazy to be against that. I think what a lot of people who claim to be Zionists don't fully understand are all the consequences and all the additional motivations that come with the term Zionism that aren't just about having a simple place that's safe for people to be. Sorry, got something stuck in my mouth. But here's what I would say. I understand that many people who are Jewish identify their whole life identity as attached to Israel. Ben Shapiro being a great example of somebody who just can't separate the two and doesn't believe the two should be separated, that any criticism of Zionism is criticism of Jewish people. I disagree with that, but I understand it. So what I would say is this: what people can't see who believe that is they can't see the harm that was caused. I see the harm that was caused by the formation of my country, the United States, or the one that I was born in, that harmed the Native Americans. I can acknowledge that it's unfair. It's hypocritical for us to look the other way on that. How can it not be acknowledged of what happened to Palestinian Arabs in 1946 through 1948? It was horrible, horrific. And how can you not acknowledge that they were the majority population in the late 1800s up until like the 1930s? And there was a slow but steady migration, and it really accelerated in the 30s into the 40s of Jewish people. It completely changed the landscape, and therefore it started to cause rub. That's what happens when you have mass immigration. So the more I've learned about the underpinnings of Zionism and its impact not only within the state of Israel, but elsewhere throughout the different structures that are powerful in the world, again, I don't want to make up some crazy conspiracy about it, but it's hard to not acknowledge that reality. And why people are subjected to such harsh criticism if they start to get into that topic, I'll never know. If it was a bunch of people from Eritrea or Ethiopia or whatever that had that same sort of, observable reality, it would be fair to point it out. I don't know why it is when we talk about Zionism, it's off limits or anti-Semitic or hateful. That's my point of that. And I don't know where that's all going to go, but I know I get in trouble for even going there, so I'm not going to do it today. Okay, we have, I think it was Freedom Philistine who hasn't had a chance to come in yet. So Philistine, how you doing today? Hope I undid your mic. There you go. Are you there? Because I cannot hear you if you can hear us. We can't hear you speaking. I don't think so. Thank you, John. Thanks for the compliment. Yeah, we had about 420 people in here about a half an hour ago. I think it was when Lion was here, because I think Lion probably has a good following. And whenever you have a contentious exchange, it usually brings a lot of people in. So I kind of enjoy those. And listen, this is the great thing about being someone who's not married to your position. I like to say that I have a take, but my take it shifts. It's like Play-Doh. You shift it as you learn more. And my ego and my life is not attached to my beliefs or my takes. Therefore, I don't get offended if somebody points out that, hey, you're wrong about this. Okay, let me look at the evidence and make heads or tails of it. And if I'm wrong, let's fix it, right? That's a fair way to be. Unfortunately, too many people just want to hear what they think they believe, and that's all they listen to, which is an echo chamber. It's called confirmation bias, which doesn't do any good, right? You're never gonna grow in doing that way. Okay, Philistine, you may want to come back because we can't hear you. Let me take you out. Come on back in after you exit TikTok. That should fix it. Okay, I think that Gaza Forever was still talking. Then we'll go to user.
Hello, Chip. Can you hear me now?
Hey, yes,
How are you, buddy? How's
good,
everybody
thank you.
doing?
Trying to keep my head above water.
Oh man, oh man, oh man. Listening to those people, man, I don't know where to start, to be honest with you. My stomach, my blood pressure, it's been a holocaust. Roller coaster for me.
Yeah,
It's unbelievable. I wish TikTok had a lie detector, believe it or not. And he'll
wouldn't that be
probably,
nice?
he'll be out there.
By the way, speaking of,
know.
let me share one thing with the audience. And I've actually proposed this to some people. They say that I'm doing this for money, or I'm lying, or I'm taking the side, or I hate Jewish people. I'm willing to take a polygraph. Here's what I'll do. If somebody wants to challenge me, I'll do it on a live video. I'll take the polygraph. Ask me any question you want that relates to any of that stuff. If I don't pass, I pay for it. If I do pass, you pay for the polygraph. It's probably going to cost like $2,000. So, whatever, I'm open to that. So all of my motives get impugned, and it's not that I'm one-sided. It's that I don't understand how someone can oppress somebody else and not care about it and try to find a way to justify it. That's all.
No, Chip, everything you've been saying is completely true, and you can be tracked and backed up too. But those Zios, they just blah 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 blah, making up their own crap. Absolutely no evidence, nothing to back it up, just something from their imagination. When they're talking about the hostages, when they're talking about October 7, which I'm really sick and tired of hearing about October 7. To me, October 7, this is like nothing. This is just tap on the shoulder for the Israeli compared to what they have done for us for the past 75 years. Like somebody punching you and kicking you for 75 years, and you just, in return, you tap them on the shoulder, and that's how they react. That's just insane and crazy. And everything they were talking about, I've been hearing all these guys talking about hostages. I'm like, hostages are being treated pretty well. None of them has complained. And maybe later on, some of them changed the story, their narrative on whatever news media, but none of them, they actually said that they felt safe with the age group compared to what the Israeli government had been doing with all the bombardment. They were fearing for their life,
Yeah.
And it's stupid that the age group would unalive anybody or hurt anyone where they actually can use them for exchange, for hostages.
Yeah, you mentioned
So
something just a
whatever
moment ago.
those Zios are claiming, yeah,
I was going to say, you mentioned something a moment ago. So for those of you who don't know, I was contacted by a journalist from a Turkish TV network. It's called TV Net, I guess. And so I did a brief interview, and there's a video that says my interview with Turkish TV. But what I said there as a sort of an analogy was, imagine you have a bigger, stronger bully with their boot on your neck, and they got a bunch of knives in your side, and they twist them periodically because they have power over you. Your hands are tied behind your back. And then one day you get one of your hands free, and you reach up and you scratch the leg of this bully, and you draw a little bit of blood, but you don't hurt the person. You just kind of inflict a small skin wound. And then they clip off your ears, they knock your teeth out, they come, and then they go find your brother, do the same to him. Then they find your mother, father, sister, the entire neighborhood, because one person did something that was, that scratched the bully's leg. That's how I see what happened on 10/7. Now, I don't mean to minimize what happened to people through a scratch on the leg, but the interview basically, they showed imagery in the background that kind of showed the totality of that. So if you want to check that interview out, go check it out. But I think that's what happened here. I think the removal of Gaza, the removal of the settlements, was taking one of the knives out among the 5 that have been stuck in the side of this Palestinian, group of people. I think that's what happened. I think it's not unusual to want to fight back. Why? Who wouldn't want to fight back if a police got their boot on your neck?
absolutely. This is what they did. It's absolute to me. It's absolutely nothing compared to like what anybody would do. I mean, look what happened when the U.S. had somebody got unalived in Jordan. How they retaliate?
Exactly. They did
Now,
airstrikes
when you're
everywhere.
talking about
Not everybody.
exactly, and this is something you can say. Okay, yeah, you can justify it. It's proportionate, but
Yeah.
when
Listen, thanks for coming
when
on. I
this
really
guy
appreciate. Are you still got? Okay. Go ahead, please.
oh my bad, when this guy is talking about what's his name? I forgot his name. He's talking about whatever he's talking like it's a war, it's nothing, it's everything is just it's a war, that's not, this thing just happened, whatever. No, it's not a war. A war is between 2 armies equipped with the same equipment. They have tanks, they have planes, they have all this yada yada. No, you are a nuclear
Yeah.
power country with all the weapons that the US
Yeah.
have, fighting people with just machine guns and bazookas, and you call that a war. Their homes don't have bunkers where they can hide,
Yeah.
and if they hide, you smack them with bunker busting missiles, which you've been like destroying buildings and unaliving like hundreds of people at one strike.
Yeah.
Just all this stuff they're talking is just ridiculous. It's unbelievable. Like nothing comes out of their mouth are true. They always just twist everything. I don't know, man. It really makes me sick.
Yeah, in warfare, they call they call that asymmetry or asymmetric warfare, meaning that one side just has an incredible advantage. So they have air superiority. They do have weapons of mass destruction, obviously. They have a ground force, which some of which is good, the rest of which is questionable, given that it's mostly reserves. But the air power is the big thing, and they can do a lot of damage with air superiority. That just completely changes the whole battlefield. And the Palestinians don't even have ground-to-air missiles to stop any of the aircraft or the the bombing. So it's basically a one-sided slaughter. I hate to say it, other than the ground interactions, which obviously the H group has the advantage, but slowly but surely, with just sheer numbers and sheer destruction of the terrain, the Israeli military can encroach on the civilians that are choose. So, hey, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it very much, Gaza. We're going to let I think Freedom Philistines back. We're going to give that person a chance. Thanks for being here. Thank you very much. Okay, Freedom Philistine, you got back in. I hope your mic is working.
Yeah, can you
Are you
hear
there?
me? Can you hear
Yeah,
me?
can hear you fine.
Right.
Thanks.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Man, I've been knocked off and 3 times already. That's it's crazy. Yeah, Chip, as well as I do that anybody that says, "Well, I'm Special Forces is an extended arm of the Mossad or the CIA or MI6." These guys, they're just trained to completely divert anything. And he was here. By the way, you're on the Zionist radar big time. So they were here just to try to derail you and make you look like you don't know what you're talking about and you're just saying things and that. But I've watched the interviews of a girl that said that they were all taken care of. A guy came in on one of the guards came in on her and she was exercising. He told her, "Good for you, you're exercising and everything." And she challenged him to an arm wrestle. So he went and got a towel and put the towel, between his hand and hers because he's not allowed to touch a woman's skin unless he's married to her. Right? This is how
Right, that makes sense.
decent. This is how decent the guys were. The T group guys, well, the resistant group guys were to the captives. And the old lady that came out said that she was treated fairly. She was looked after. There would be a woman that would come in and bathe her once a day. So these guys come out here and they put out the same rhetoric lies. There was a report yesterday that came out in the New York Times saying that a lot of the stuff that was said by the IDF were all lies. And it was debunked by the New York Times. It was debunked by Haaretz, of course, from the beginning. And the Hannibal Directive says exactly what you said it says earlier. That guy was just putting things out there. You throw shit on the wall and you hope it sticks, right? With people that don't know anything, the crap he was throwing on the wall might stick. But for the people that know, that are critical thinkers and know how to decipher propagandists, we know better. So this guy was just out here to, like I said, you're on the Zionist radar now. So they're all going to be coming in and attacking you. I saw the way they attacked you on that live the other day. They're going to be coming at you fiercely now. Like the one that was on here yelling earlier, yelling and screaming and.
Her name is Dora, and I've tried to go on the lives where she's one of the panelists for like New York City Joe or Captain Jonathan.
Yeah, I heard her. What?
She just yells the whole time.
No, they're the scum of the scum. They're even worse than
I'm not gonna say that. Let's be fair. They have a point
okay,
of view.
I'm sorry. I
They
apologize.
They have a point of view that I think
Right.
is hard to substantiate, but they seem to sincerely believe it. Many of them, which I think is unfortunate.
Well, you know what? The thing is, some of them might sincerely believe it, but a lot of them actually know what's really going on.
Sure.
Like I had an old New York Jewish lawyer that lives in Israel and everything. We were debating. This is about 15 years ago. And he's like, "Why are you people so racist?" And I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa! I know who's racist." He's like, "You Arabs are so racist." I said, "We Arabs are racist? If we're racist, right? How come in the Bible they decipher between Jews and Gentiles? They are Jews and everybody else is a Gentile. So where does the racism come from? It's in their Yiddish books, and it's not Jewish. I mean, it's not the Judaism itself. It's not the religion of Judaism itself, even though it's inherent in that book. But there's a difference between reading a book and taking up the ideology.
Well, let's okay. Again, just trying to be fair. I'm playing the devil's advocate here, just to be fair. I mean,
Yes,
there's some of what you're saying I embrace. I don't think the rank and file Jewish person, both in Israel or around the
exactly.
world, subscribes to the idea that they're better than everybody else. I think what they really want is they want to have security for Israel so that all this crazy stuff stops happening. I think what they fail to
Well, you
understand,
would
though, is the
have
choice.
Chip.
Hold on, let me finish. That the choices of the Israeli government have been such that they haven't indicated a willingness to allow for that to happen. So they want it to happen, but the Israeli government doesn't allow it to happen, and therein lies the cognitive dissonance, in my opinion.
Right. And that cognitive dissonance was put into place because the Zionist project is a project of the elite. And that's to, put the Yiddish people there and, create a havoc. People not from the land and an ongoing colonization. Well, colonization, what did colonizers do? They want to eliminate the indigenous people of the land, just like we did here in the United States. We massacred, genocided millions and millions and millions of Native Americans so we can colonize. So, you know, the people that are consistent with that are just as guilty as the government. I'm sorry, I would say it, like if my government went to war and I went and I'm like hoorah and everything without knowing my due diligence, then I'm to but just to blame as much as them. But which brings me to another point. They Governments put fear into people. They create these scenarios. They put fear into people so people would fight wars because humans do not want to go on unaliving other people. We do not. Your typical farmer doesn't want to leave the farm to go unalive somebody. Your painter doesn't want to stop painting a wall to go unalive somebody. Your contractor doesn't want to stop building houses to go unalive somebody. So governments create the scenario. They create all kinds of scenarios to put people in fear so that they would go to war. And most of the propaganda here in the United States for a long time is they built up all these in the media. They built up all these Muslim terrorists, Muslim T groups, or Arab T groups, just so they can get people conditioned and desensitized to go fight people in the Middle East. So this is what's going on. People need to wake up. I don't care if you're Israeli. I don't care if you're Palestinian. I don't care if you're American. I don't care if you're British. People wake up. War is a business for the elite. And what's running our country today, Chip, is not our government. What's running our country and running most of the countries around the world, it's called the CFR, the Council on Foreign Relations, and it's a corporation basically. And like Solomon Rothschild said, I care not who runs the country as long as I control the money.
Yeah.
And so the control of the money controls the countries. So that's what it falls on. It's these corporations. It's the banks, the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, which is owned by the Rothschilds, the Federal Reserve, which is also owned by the Rothschilds. So
Well,
that
let's correct that for a sec. Just one sec. I gotta be fair. So my understanding, and I could be wrong because I don't know everything, obviously, that the Federal Reserve Bank is a private bank that issues money as the lender of last resort and controls a lot of monetary policy for, the financial system, has a huge influence, that in the London Central Bank. It's owned by a number of other banks and high net worth individuals. They are shareholders in the privately owned bank with government officials that are the public representatives for the bank. As far as the International Monetary Fund, it's really a non-governmental lending institution, but virtually it's a hand of U.S. imperialism to indebt other countries, while the money that they're used to become indebted gets cycled through Western multinational corporations. Okay, please continue. I think I unmuted. There we go. Yep, there we go.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, but it's also a tool that's used to control the countries. And
That's what I mean. Yeah, indebtedness. That's what I meant.
well, yeah, they're putting people in debt, but they're also putting the United States in debt. It's not, we're in what? We're in a deficit. We're in trillions of dollars of debt, multi-trillions
Yeah, yeah.
of dollars of debt. So it's used against the American people more than it's used as a tool for the American people. So our government has gone rogue because they're being controlled by the very people that are controlling the money. And of course, it's all the little banks are just subsidiaries of the one big bank. They might not announce who the owner of that one big bank is,
Right.
but of course, they're not going to do that because of the safety of it. But then again, that's you got people up on top like Carl Schwab and Soros and all these guys. These are all pretty much Zionist stuff. I'm sorry.
Let me ask you that, Phil. Let me ask you this question because something came up in the comments. So his name is Nick, and Nick said this is a comedy show. So I'm not sure what Nick means by that. But Nick, if you want to come up and explain to us how it's comedic, I'm happy to hear. By the way, if you're saying I'm funny, thank you, or maybe funny looking, I'll take both. But no, let me expand on that just a second, and I'll let you get back to what you wanted to say. So I've talked about this a lot in my videos, especially when I first got started, when things weren't getting as heated with this. But go back and look. I talk about this, and this is the hard part to understand, is that the people at the top don't look at nation states as, they're not looking at themselves as a part of a nationality. They see themselves as an oligarch, as a part of a transnational community of the wealthy, like they're the better people. And what they do is they use the assets of nation states to their benefit. So, for example, the military, which was used in the Iraq War, was used to create an easier framework for Western multinational oil companies to go and develop Iraqi oil. The treasuries of countries, which, by the way, the treasury is just the people's bank account, the debt for which accrues to the population, the taxpayers. And by the way, freedom, there's some noise in the background. I'm going to mute you there. The treasury, the bill, it's basically a credit card. Let's face it, no one's paying for it. Each year it gets bigger and bigger, but it's like a credit card without a limit. And what happens is the appropriations from the Congress, which of course is controlled by these same rich people, I call them the sociopathic serial accumulator class. They're money hoarders, and they just want more on return on investment. And they want to pilfer as much as they can from wherever they can get it. And they want to use the resources like the military, the political system to get what they want. So what they do to countries like the United States is they're taking money. What happened with the CARES Act before? What happened with the response to the pandemic? What's happened with the Iraq War, the financial crisis, the most current war, the Ukraine, and this? It's all ways of taking money from the sovereign nation's bank account, cycling it through these big companies, contractors, military, weapon systems. And who owns those companies? The same rich people that form this big corporate umbrella over the transnational systems. And they'll take it from wherever they can get it. Great Britain, Germany, United States, whatever country they can extract wealth from, they do. And who keeps it? And then they don't pay taxes on it because they find ways to avoid taxes by setting up things like trusts and other things that are just like these gimmicks that get around the tax code. So the average working person has taxes taken from them. That creates a little bit of the revenue each year, even though we always spend more than we bring in. And that cumulative debt goes on the credit card. And who pays that? Children, grandchildren. Just the interest on it that has to get paid each year is over $600 billion now. And that crowds out other domestic services because they never cut the money that goes to the rich class. And therein lies the problem. So, Philistine, how would you like to finish up? We got a few other people that want to get in.
Yeah. Also, I wanted to go back to points that that guy was saying. everybody.
Let's go with one of them because we got a lot of other people that want to jump in.
Okay. You know, what, I'll leave it. I'll come back later. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah.
Take
Please stay in the
somebody
queue
else
if you
on.
want to. Yeah, please
I'm
stay.
I'm courteous. I'm not going to be like that guy and try to push my narrative for hours.
No, it's okay.
Go ahead.
So thank you for sharing your points, and yeah, we'll get you back in if we can.
All right,
I'm
no
going to
worries.
leave you up for now. Thank you. Okay, let me see who was next here. I think the person next was we haven't heard from Viv. Let's hear from Viv, and then I think user got cut off, and then we'll go to Nicholas. Hi, Viv.
I was to sit back again. Um,
Uh,
can you
we
hear
can't
me?
hear you. Can't really hear you, Viv. Maybe can you try to fix your audio a little bit, please?
Can you hear me now, Chip? No?
It's faint, but I can still make it out. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to make a comment about the guy that spoke about the literature in the curriculum in Gaza. Now,
Yeah.
this accusation was made in 2006 because Israel wanted to actually control the curriculum in Gaza. And they literally did an investigation. The United Nations did an investigation on the same allegation that in the Gaza curriculum or in the West Bank, they were learning kids about literally being biased to Israel. They did the study and found that that was untrue. And I actually sent you the actual article of the investigation that was done. So I just want to say the same accusation that he done was said to in Israel before, and this was in 2006. So I just want to say
Okay.
anything that you do see, there's a backing that what this was investigated and it was lies, just like the other things that they say usually, which is lies. So I sent that over to you. So whatever he sends you, mine is literally backed up by an actual study that was done by the United Nations. So I just wanted to
Okay.
say what
Thank
he
you.
said is incorrect, lies, unless there's a new study that was made in 2023. But if you want to do your own research, I just thought I'd send it to you and share that
Yeah.
with you, Chip, so that you know as well.
Thank
Just
you.
wanted to bring that up. And thank you so much for being you. And thank you for being honest and truthful and being such a great host. And thank you, everyone. And I hope you have a great evening. Thanks for having me up, Chip. Take care.
Thank you, Viv. Yeah, no problem. Thanks for being here. That's good to hear. I mean, listen, I don't want to have anything untruthful go out. And if anything I'm saying is not truthful, I want to get it fixed. And if something that a panelist says, a guest, if there is evidence to support what the guest says, fair enough. Let's acknowledge it. Let's share it. Let's be honest about it. If there is no real evidence, which, by the way, that's been one of my real challenges. I hear a lot of allegations made in the comments. People say, like, you're lying, you're spreading misinformation, you don't know what you're talking about. I asked them to clarify. Let's just pick one point. They don't get involved. There's someone named Nick in the comments right now who's saying a lot of stuff, not in a really bad way. I mean, I appreciate Nick's point of view, but I've asked Nick to come up and share his thoughts if he's willing to. Maybe he doesn't have enough followers. I don't know. But I'm always happy to hear somebody. If you think we're giving out wrong information, let's talk about it. That's actually fun to do. Okay, I think user 448817 had been patiently waiting to get back in. So what do you have to talk about? What'd you like to say? If they're there. Okay, no Nick. No C.
But
Oh,
one
there you
thing I
go. There
want
you
to
go.
add here for everybody to repeat it time and again is that we don't know exactly what happened on October 7. We really don't know. It's all out of the Israelis' mouth, Israeli official mouth. We have the Haaretz claiming that the Israelis IDF has killed so many people. We don't know how many people they killed. And now it was an operation by the H group that I think they were themselves surprised that it was so successful that bunch of mobs went out and grabbed anything they want. So as far as the hostages are concerned, I think they are all over the place by people who did not actually belong to the H group. and I think the H group have a dilemma to find out where all of these are. So it was a surprise for the H group themselves because they have succeeded in doing it so easily and exposed the vulnerability of the IDF and blew up all this halo or this balloon that showed that always showed the IDF so undefeatable and all of this. So as far as the hostages are concerned, we don't know where all of them are. I mean, here and there, just like those 3 hostages that the IDF killed them. I mean, it wasn't I don't think the H group released them. It was just they were held somewhere by some of the mobs that just went amok from being oppressed and they grabbed anything. So, but again, back to the point of the October 7, we don't know what happened. We really don't know. It's all by the Israeli mouth. And as you said before, and you say it again, do you know when the Israelis officials are lying is when their lips are moving? Okay, so this is one. One final point, and I'll be back again on your show, is that I have a picture of the IDF tying a child on one of their armor as a human shield. I mean, what are we talking about? And then I can, of course, talk more and more about the history of the Jewish people in that land, all the way into Abraham and before. So I will be back again on your show, and we can talk, and I'll contribute as needed for you. Keep it up.
Okay.
There's nothing I can add to what you're saying and what I hear. Occasionally, I hear some obnoxious remarks that people who don't want to see the light, they don't want to see the truth. They just, as one of your chatter or one of your commentator said, brought the Orwell 1984 is just like it's brainwashed. It's brainwashed. So keep it up.
Okay.
I'll be back again.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, take
Appreciate
care.
your point of view. Someone in the comments named David said something, and David, I just want to answer that. I think it's fair. You said, "Why do you only let pro-Palestinian voices come up on the panel?" So, David, I'm guessing you weren't here earlier because we had 2 different guests that came up for about 45 minutes total between the 2 of them, which is usually way more time than any one guest gets to speak. And we had a nice, lively discussion. People have been commenting on that. Speaking of which, I want to just answer one thing that Lion of Zion said, and that is, he said that anybody who would take a younger person, like a baby, hostage must therefore mistreat the hostages because how could they do anything other than that? Here's why I disagree. And I don't know every detail, obviously. Maybe there has been some harm done. I don't know. I don't know what the status is of the hostages. I feel horrible that any hostage has been taken, and I hope that they're not experiencing mistreatment. I don't think they are, but if there's evidence showing it, then let's look at it. Let's talk about that. But I don't believe that it does any good for the H group to hold on to hostages and harm them. Like, they have to be available for exchange. And by the way, if they come out battered and bruised, that's going to make them look horrible. And from what the evidence so far, and again, I can only go with the evidence that I've seen. You may think that I'm cherry picking this, but I've seen like 5 different videos of hostages being handed over by the H group to different whoever's going to take them away. And none of them have indicated any sort of physical harm. One girl had her dog with her, who they obviously fed and took care of while she was a dog, didn't look starved to death. And everyone looked fine, no physical harm, and they actually seemed very friendly. It was like a very strange, warm, friendly handoff, which I wasn't expecting. But that's what it looked like. And again, you can say that the H group forced them to do this little, acting show. But I don't think the average Israeli is like a good actor. Like, how can you get 5 or 6 or 7 people, or even 2 or 3 to, have a warm embrace and I couldn't do it probably. So I just want to say to Lion, Lion, a lot of stuff that you're saying, again, I need something that shows different. If I have videos showing one thing, but you're claiming it was something else, what is the stuff that I can go with to substantiate those claims? I'm happy to look at it. You made a lot of claims about stuff being evidentiary. My email is chipbarnesonline@gmail.com. Very simple. Email me links. My Telegram link is just my name, Chip Barnes. You can search me out there. I'm open to any information. I'm about as fair as you're going to get on the Palestinian side of this issue. And if something shows evidence, I will promise you I'll tell my audience. You did ask me to look up that one thing, which was evidence for the curriculum in Gaza. I had somebody come on named Vivian just a second ago, said there was an investigation done in 2006 that showed that was not the case. So again, you say there's a PDF file on the internet which shows the curriculum. I'm going to look for it. If anybody here in the audience says look for it, I'm happy to entertain it. I just, we've got to be fair in how we do this. So if there's anybody in the comments like David who wants to come up and speak, I'll happily let you come up. Listen, it's fun to have exchanges with people we disagree with, and if you say some things that make sense, I'll incorporate it into what I believe. I promise you, I'm not a unmalleable piece of clay. Okay, I think President Him was trying to get and had to drop off and come back. So let's give President Him a chance if he or she can come in. I guess it's a he.
Hey,
And then
how are you doing? My name is
as
Mike.
well. Hey, Mike, how you
Nice to
doing?
meet you, Chip. Good. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Yeah. I came up when that other guy was leaving user because he said, well, yeah, about October 7th. So we don't. I guess it's 100% true. We don't know everything, right? But there is, I think, at a minimum, we do know. And I just came from another live, and there was a very uneducated person in there, and the person basically said that it was just a couple military attacks on October 7th, and that was it. And I'm like, that's really not fair. That's way too little context to give somebody who's uneducated to try to bring them to your side. So
what did the person claim? What can you just clarify? What the person said?
So there was a young lady who was like, oh, I really don't know what happened. She was kind of trying to see. She saw Israel's side more, and then this guy who was I was on a very cordial live with earlier, and it was very nice, but flipped. He basically was like, "Oh, they broke through a fence at one point, and they just attacked some military." And then I came on, and I was like, "Well, that's not the full context that we have." And then they dropped me, and he called me a bigot. So all I was going to provide was, listen, what we know from October 7th is they broke through the fence at multiple points. I was going to give a little information on how they did it because the person was uneducated, and some civilians were killed and military was killed. I don't have any more information than that. There's no evidence of the grape. There's no evidence of the baby thing, nothing. Right. But like, I think it's unfair to not unfair. I see what they're doing, but like to just say like, oh, a couple military were unalived and that was it. We all know that's not the full context, no matter which side you're on. Right. So I hate when people get misled like that, especially when they're uneducated and they haven't seen any of it. But yeah, and as far as just my position as this whole thing in total, I think it's horrible. Like I think a lot of people think if you just don't agree with them unequivocally that you're a bad person and you enjoy seeing all this stuff happen, right? And it's not my perspective. I don't agree with specifically what happened on October 7th. I don't agree with it at all. However, I think Israel's response has been, I'm not going to use Joe Biden's word over the top because I think that's stupid, has been way too aggressive. And I think a military that's as smart and as advanced as Israel knows that achieving the goal that they want to achieve, which is eliminating H group, would take an effort that is basically what's happening now, right? People are displaced all over Gaza. It's horrible. I mean, listen, there are things I agree with, and I know others don't, like the dropping of the leaflets. I know people said, well, they bombed other areas that they said to go to. I do think that did save lives, though, because if they didn't do that, there would have been a lot more deaths. So, it just sucks. The point I'm at now, though, is Rafah is a red line for me because Rafah has 1.5 million people in it. And if you look at it from a military standpoint, it's going to be almost impossible to get those people out of harm's way. So if the IDF goes into that part, Hamas probably is, H group probably is, sorry, I want to use TikTok friendly language. I don't want to get your live banned. They're probably heavily concentrated there. It makes sense, right? I mean, they're farthest away from where the IDF was operating. So the IDF probably could get a good victory there. But it's going to come at a cost that is way too high, right? So that's kind of where I'm at with it, man. I think Rafah is, for me, Rafah is too far. there's no, you can't move 1.5 million people. Where are you going to move them to? There's no way for them to get like the aid, just the logistics of it. It just doesn't make sense to me how they can now do that. And again, if that's where my mind shifts and says, well, if their aim is to do this and eliminate Hamas, they're gonna unalive a ton of people in the process. And it's gonna be clear as day G side.
Well, you're denying October 7th, which is just as bad as denying the small economy.
I didn't deny October
Gemma,
7th at
hold,
all.
give me one sec. Hold on. Let me just tell you. Gemma, hey, happy to have you here. Just to give you a quick idea of the format for those who don't know me, my name's Chip Barnes. I do these lives quite frequently, like 6 days a week, and sometimes they run long like this one. I always give people a chance to speak. We just have to take people in order because that's kind of fair. And I'm not going to mute anybody because I disagree with them. So, Gemma, I'm happy to hear your point of view. Sometimes what we have to do, if you're obviously you have to wait a little bit, just make a note of whatever the point is you want to make, and you can reference. So President him is the name. And if you want to say something about him, that's fine. We just try to keep it out of the personal realm and keep it about the points and keep it civil and take turns. And I'm sorry you have to wait because other people have been waiting for a while. So I mean that sincerely. I will give you a chance if you want to wait, or you can come back if you have to. And I promise you I'll bring you up. So hopefully that's fair. Did you want to finish real quick, President? And then we'll let somebody else speak so we can hopefully get to Gemma as soon as you can.
Absolutely. I'm confused on how you saying I'm denying October 7th. I don't, first of all, I think October 7th was horrible. What I said was specifically, there's been a lot of claims made. There's video evidence of a good portion of it, which I've seen, right? There's civilians that were killed. There was military. There was definitely heinous acts. I've said there's not 100% evidence. Like there's not evidence of the 40 babies thing, which I think even Israel retracted themselves. I'm almost positive they did. There's certain things we don't have evidence of, right? And again, I said on top of it, which I don't know why you're fighting me, is I do lean more towards Israel. What I said was there's a red line when it comes to Rafah for me, looking at it just as a military perspective. I think Israel has done a lot of things right up until this point, even though a lot of people will disagree with that, like I said, with the leaflets and all that. So I'm not really sure what
Okay.
What the
All right,
defense
that
is
was
there.
well put. Okay, so President, let's do this. Please stay on the panel. I want to give everybody a chance to go back and forth, but I do want to give C-Tang a chance, then we'll let Gemma respond. Thanks for your patience, Gemma.
Me, I
Yep.
just want to come up and tell you that the hostages were not happy. They didn't know they were taken somewhere. They didn't know where they were going. They didn't know where they were being released. They were scared out
Okay,
of the.
Gemma, I know that you want to respond badly. I just want to be fair to everybody, and I want to hear what you have to say. I really do, and I want to give you a chance to go back and forth. We just have to do it in order because C-Tang's been waiting quite a bit. I'm not trying to keep you from talking, I promise you.
Okay, so I didn't come here to talk about because Nick was talking about something else. Do you see that tweet? You see that comment, right? Chuck, Chip?
I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't see anything.
No, Nick was
I've been
talking
trying to.
about the tweet that you made, right?
Yeah,
And
we're not addressing that on today's forum. We've addressed that
okay,
for
I just want to
hours on
state
end.
that people who are here, like, they don't have to support everything that you tweet, but they can still be here. And it's not about, don't weaponize this. Like, there is something that people are here for this conversation, and it's not necessarily like I agree with everything the host does or say. So please don't try to weaponize that when there's like a genocide happening. So that's what I'm focused on. That's why I'm here. It's not because of anything else. That's all I want to
What's
say.
up?
Yeah, I think that's fair to. By the way, I think it's fair for anybody if you have something someone's done or said to be critical of it. And I think that's
Nigga,
I
stop
think it's just.
nigga.
I got to get these are young kids. Let me just get them off of here. Can't have anybody under the age of I think 16 or 18. Listen, it's fair to point out somebody's flaws or say you disagree with something they said or whatever, however you want to categorize. That's fair. The thing is, I've actually gone out of my way both on pro-Pally lives as well as I've gone up on the multiple pro-Israeli lives to kind of come clean about that, apologize for it, try to get it out in the open, not hide from it, and take accountability. I don't know what else somebody can do. And what I can't do, unfortunately, like anybody else in life, you can't just keep talking about it 24/7, 365, or nothing else would get discussed. So, yeah, I got to take accountability. I screwed up on those tweets. I shouldn't have done them. I've since, retracted the information, trying to move on as people advise me. I'm getting some work with a therapist on it. I'm reading a few books. I'm going to invite a panel on to talk about it. I'm doing the right things. Imperfect human. I screwed up, but I'm trying to keep the conversation on focus just because it keeps us from getting too far across different issues. So thanks for bringing that up, C-Tang. Let's let Gemma talk for a bit. Gemma, I'm going to give you the floor for like at least 3 or 4 minutes. Just say what you want to say, unless you want President to respond.
No, I just wanted to tell you personally and anybody watching that the hostages are not happy. When they were released and you see those videos, they were told to act a certain way. I don't believe they knew that they were getting released, and they're scared. So I just ask that you please watch the interviews of the hostages, later when they interviewed, especially Mia Shem, because they are not happy. And the evidence that's come out recently about the hostages, that have been raped, it's really sad. So I just ask that before you say that they look happy, or anybody thinks that they were happy and well taken care of, they were not. I mean, that's just upsetting when I see it. And then when I see the guy down at the bottom saying, oh, well, there's no evidence of rape and this and that bothers me as well. And then, while I'm up here, might as well address the 30,000. I mean, I don't know. If you want to take their number, 30,000, fine. But the IDF has verified that 9,000 are combatants, okay? And they're estimating that 14,000 of those are militants. So they're doing their job. They're getting the H group militants. They're doing what they can to protect the civilians, and that's a fact. And another fact is the hostages were not happy. They were terrified. They were scared. They were told to act a certain way to appease the propaganda that most people in here are falling for, which is disgusting and terrible and upsetting on every single level.
Okay, let me respond to that a little bit real quick, Gemma. Thanks for sharing your point of view. So some of the things I like to say is lack of certainty. So there's a lot of confusion, a lot of lack of clarity. So when people look at stuff, I think there's what happens and there's what people perceive, or they frame their conversation around what actually happened. So it's understandable for somebody to share that point of view. And let me share mine just out of sheer trying to be objective. So in watching the videos, that what I saw was, first of all, the first release that I saw was an older woman. She was completely gone from the H group. She was in front of cameras inside of Israel. And they asked her, what was your experience? So at that time, she was free to say whatever she wanted. If she felt she was mistreated, if she was uncomfortable, there was no
Husband, they
pressure.
still have her husband. Do you think that she's...
Hold on. Gemma, listen, I didn't say a word while you were talking. The way I run my lives, we'll go back and forth. I'm not going to monologue for 10 minutes. I'm going to give you a chance to respond. But you made some points. I just want to quickly respond to them. So when you say it's sad that people here are falling under so much propaganda, that's a two-way street that we could get into. Let's not address that right this second. But the person who spoke publicly did say, you can go back and look at the videotape, it's on video, that she wasn't mistreated, that she was well cared for, she was fed well, and she had her feminine hygiene issues provided for, which she was surprised. Now, I can't say with certainty that that wasn't an anomaly, and that there's a lot of hostages that have been taken and that have had different experiences to whatever degree they have. First of all, I don't like the fact that anybody had to be in those circumstances. That's horrible, to be fearing for whatever may happen. You don't know what's happening. I get it. That's horrible. So that's to be condemned. I agree with you, especially young people and older people. I think that's the worst of it. We don't know for sure, and I've heard the following allegations that you made. I want to make sure I understand you. That hostages were coached or bullied into doing something a certain way to make it appear as if they were treated well, but when they came back, they had a different point of view. Some people interpret that, and I did a video about this, about Mia Shem, if that's her name, that it seemed strange. And again, if she really was, pressured into behaving a certain way, then okay, I get it. That's fair. But I don't know. And I think one thing that comes out of the side that you're sharing is you say things with such certainty, but I don't have the evidence to back up the certainty with which you say that. I wish I did. We've talked about things that happened on October 7th. I'd love to find the certainty that I think President Him said. But it's not me. And listen, it's very clear. Let me be very, very clear. Just like President. There's no way for me to deny any of that stuff. I don't know what happened. I have heard claims. I have heard claims from people that they have video that shows exactly what happened, but I've not been able to find it and see it. And I know that not everything was caught on video. So in fairness, third-party testimony is all you have to go with. But it's very difficult when people say something with such certainty, but we don't have evidence. My perception of it, just to be fair, I only have one set of eyes and ears like you do. And if I see certain things on video and then I watch the Mia Shem interview, it was hard for me to reconcile the two because they were so drastically different. That's the only thing. And again, I could be totally wrong. I got to be fair about this because a lot of these things are holes. We don't know how they're filled. So I hope that's being fair. And by the way, making blanket statements that everyone here is under some propaganda is kind of demeaning people's intelligence. People here do the same thing you're doing. They try to make heads and tails of things. And I've been very, very clear to lay out that I don't want to take a side with information. If information is presented, like the allegations about the schools and allegations about us, I need to look into it. And if there's evidence that contradicts what I've sort of shared, I'll fix it. That's fair. That's being fair. I don't want to believe anything. I believe what I see and what I can discern. Let me let you respond.
I just wanted to share that. I really would appreciate watch the video of the hostages interviews, and also if you look, there's before and after pictures of the woman that was also a Holocaust survivor. She had to have lost 30 pounds, under when she was a hostage. I mean, I don't know what evidence you guys need to see that these people were suffering. Mia Shem said not one person in Gaza is innocent. She had her stitches done by a veterinarian. They were not taken care of. Like I don't I just don't get it. And then the people here, they're like, oh, there's also forensic evidence, a ton of forensic evidence on the graping that happened on October 7th and while people were held hostage. I don't know, it's like you people want a snuff film or something, and it's disgusting. And I just came up here to say that. Please look at those interviews.
Okay,
Please look at the Israeli side because
I
they're
will. I'll
telling the
happily do it.
truth.
So let me respond to a couple of those things. So you mentioned about the weight loss. So again, this is not to point to it's in fairness, what changed at the beginning of the Israeli, what do you want to call it, response? They wouldn't allow anything into Gaza. So I'm sure they had some stores like most people do in terms of saved up supplies, just in case something like this. I don't know how much they had. It could be possible, again, just to be fair, that they didn't have an excess amount of food, that they could have been rationing it based on what they thought they have to do for the whole operation, and therefore they can't just have vast number of meals. And the evidence we do have from the beginning of the hostages that were released is that wasn't the case. Now, I don't know with this particular woman, obviously there's different parts of different tunnels and maybe they had different things stored elsewhere. I don't know for sure. But to make the claim that because this one person lost weight automatically means that all the hostages are being mistreated, not well fed, they're being, put, I don't know for sure. I think that's a too broad of a statement to make based on the evidence. But the evidence that counteracts what you just said is that other hostages have come out and we've seen the condition there and they don't look anything like that. So I don't know. That's clear. As far as women being impregnated, this is the problem I have. And just to let you know, if you're still listening, Jim, I hope you are. Just don't listen to me. Listen to Colonel Lawrence Wilkerson. He was the assistant to Secretary of Defense Colin Powell for 6 years during the George Bush administration, during 2000 to 2006. He just said in a recorded TikTok video that he engaged with the Israelis all the time. And he said he will never believe a single word that comes out of an Israeli official's mouth, ever, because all they do is lie. Now, I've experienced that in the 34 years I've been following this. I've experienced that over and over and over. Now, do I know for sure? No. The problem is when somebody lies constantly and they have a pattern of doing things a certain way, and then they now come out and say, well, trust us, this person has this eyewitness testimony. We don't know whether they're telling the truth or whether there was somebody who was coached to say something different. It could be, I'm not saying it did happen, but it could be that Mia Shem was told by the Israeli government, hey, listen, it does not make our side of this war effort look any better if these people are looked at as human beings. We need to make them look like the savages they are. Look at all the other things. Just convince her that what she was saying was not okay. And she went on and did an interview that was a little more inflammatory to make the other side look bad. That could have happened. I'm not saying it did, but that's how it appeared to me when I first looked into it. So I don't know how you get the evidence to back either side of that up. I don't know if there's a way to do that. And furthermore, when it comes to propaganda, I got to say it. The Israeli government is the best of the best of the best. They have people believing things that are so far from the truth, it's unbelievable. There might as well be a million miles. We're talking about the Andromeda galaxy from the Milky Way. It's unbelievable. And I find it very difficult to have somebody from the Israelis come across and accuse everybody here of being, quote unquote, propagandized, as if we just don't get it. Now, if there is hard evidence, and I know you said snuff film, I don't want a snuff film, but again, allegations through third-party conversations is less substantive than video. But there may not be video to substantiate some of these allegations. But again, I know that some of the women who the other Israelis said were alleged to have been assaulted, S word, came back and their family said, no, it didn't happen. That did not happen to our daughter. So again, that just puts another check mark in the box of, hey, what's being said here might not be true. But I can't deny any things that you said because I don't have all the evidence. But I can't corroborate what you said either. So it leaves it in this little gray area. And based on the pattern of lying for years and years, it gets in the questionable category. That's all I'm trying to say. So if there's evidence, I've been told over and over, there's video evidence of what went on the atrocities, the burning, the raping, all that stuff. Great. Release it or put it somewhere. Don't have a little interview with 5 people and said, my sister said this happened to her. Okay, great. That could be done by the other side and say, my sister said that the Israeli military came up and unalived 150 people and stuck them in a ditch. What value does that have? You'd probably say that's bullshit, right? That person that's no corroboratable story. But you can't use it both ways. You can't say, well, the one's not valid because of lack of evidence, but trust me, our side, it happened. I think that's a standard that's not fair. And to try to hold me to a standard that says I don't get it, I'm propagandized, I'm being as fair as I can be. So if there is evidence of the curriculum in the Gaza Strip being one of hatred towards Jewish people in general, I will condemn it and I will put it out to my community. And I'll have Lion of Zion back on to talk about it, because I think it's condemnable if that's the case. If it turns out that the Israelis are lying about that, and that when they come into schools and they find, quote unquote, a textbook, and they've obviously inserted a page that's been folded up and unfolded, and they accidentally show the back of it, flip back, and it has some really anti-Jewish rhetoric on it, that's indicative of lying. If you go to the Al-Shifa hospital and they go into a room with an MRI and put a bag behind it with a bunch of weapons and whatever, grenades, and they have one AK-47 when they first show the video, then when they take pictures, they show it has 2. So somebody restaged the damn bag to take the pictures. And obviously, it's one of them is not true, right? If you don't touch it, it's either got 1 or 2, right? Not both. If you have a situation where you're showing men who have been, undressed, and one of them is carrying a weapon over his head, walking towards a place to put it down, that's not how it works in war. You first de-arm everybody, and then you deal with everything else. You don't have one person who's taking his weapon. You don't leave a weapon in the hand of your enemy. This is third grade level propaganda. And I can see that, and I have the pictures and video to prove it. Not this broad allegation of, you people are just so propaganda. No, these are evidentiary things that prove the Israelis are lying. In the Al-Shifa hospital, there was a laptop that was taken by the Israeli forces, and they found it, and they said this was all the operational plans about how to hurt Israelis or whatever, terrorism. And you know what? The electrical port on the laptop was an Israeli electrical port. The laptop wouldn't work in Gaza. So what, did the person go to Israel and charge it and come back who's an H group member? Is that what you're telling me? This is the kind of stuff that's just, it's sloppy. It's not good work to prove the point of the allegations against the H group. Now, I'm not defending the H group. I think they do plenty of things that are bad, both in Gaza before 10/7 to their people, directing of money, what they did on 10/7 to Israeli civilians. I can't do anything but criticize that, to be fair. At the same time, the fact that they resisted occupation and blockade is fair to point out. And you can't have it both ways. You can't hold somebody under your thumb indefinitely, look the other way while their people are being unalived on a slowly drip basis over years and months, whatever, and then get really angry when somebody comes in on one day and unalives a bunch of your people because you've been doing it to them for decades. But you don't want to acknowledge it. Maybe you don't even know about it. That's possible too. That's one of the problems, is what Israel says and what Israel does are wide apart, and their population and their supporters don't know. And a good example of that, I'll just tell you that, and I try to use evidence. Anna Baltzer, a young Jewish woman who in America, her friends that were sympathetic to the Palestinian plight in the West Bank were telling her some things about what happens to people. And she's like, no, you're propagandized. Similar to what you said, you people are full of Palestinian propaganda. You have no idea what you're talking about. Well, that's how she was raised to believe, in a Zionist household in America. She traveled to Ramallah in the West Bank because they'd given her sort of a challenge. Hey, if we're wrong, we'll tell you you're wrong. So she went there, and what she found shocked her. It was so much different than what she'd been told growing up about the relationship between Israel and the Palestinians. And she was so overwhelmed by what she learned, she decided to come back and speak out, which doesn't do anybody any good. If you're speaking out against your people, the belief system, you get ostracized by your family, right? I get ostracized by my family for how I talk politically, unfortunately. And so that's a horrible thing to do. It takes a lot of courage to come back, but she came back and told the truth. It's in a documentary called Life in Occupied Palestine. She's not being paid by people out of Qatar to do it. She's just an American who came back. Her conscience was stirred up, and she came back and talked about it because she's a decent human being. And I'm not saying that Israelis that believe otherwise aren't decent people. They've just been lied to over and over. It's part of the same scheme of lying that I'm referring to when it comes to IDF officials, that Colonel Lawrence Wilkerson, an American official who engaged directly with Israelis for 6 years in his job, said the same exact thing that I've come to learn, that the Israelis lie perpetually. It's a standard practice of the government and the military to hide what it really does and to give a false perception to the public of what it does in real life. And here's the thing you can't deny, if you're still there, Gemma. What the world is now seeing is what Israel really does, which is the mass red rum unaliving of tens of thousands of people in real time that are undeniably the cause of indiscriminate bombing. There's no human shields. That whole story is not playing anymore with the public. And love it or not, so many more human beings now are seeing this for what it is. They never paid attention to it before, because why would they? And this has stroked their conscience, just like it did with Anna Baltzer when she visited, the West Bank and learned the truth. And the more people that see what they're seeing, Israel's like, well, it's human shields. People are watching buildings dropping with nobody in the neighborhood other than the people who live there. And they just get crushed, and all the people, 90% are unalived, and you got orphan kids and people that are injured. It's a horror show, and the world sees it for what it is. And all the bullshit rhetoric by the Israelis, people are like, I'm not buying that shit anymore. Nope. You can make any excuse you want. We're not buying it anymore. We see what you're doing. If there are 12,000 militants that have been unalived among the 27 to 30, who cares? If there's one civilian that is purposely unalived that doesn't have anything to do with the militants, or whether it's 10,000 or 12, it's not okay. Just like it's not okay for the H group to do anything to civilians, whether it's SA, burning, raping, whatever it may be, or unaliving. That's not okay either. But you got to be fair on both sides. You can't say your army is moral. Go to exposing, what is it called? Breaking the Silence. Go look that up on the internet, Gemma. These are former Israeli pilots and former Israeli soldiers that are saying what they were told to do by their command structure. And they feel guilty about it because they committed war crimes. And that's what Israel does. Now, what the H group did on 10/7 was a war crime to the extent that it harmed civilians. I'm right there with you. It's unfair to not look at both the same way. But you can't, it's not fair for you to say what was done on 10/7 had nothing to do with resisting occupation or blockade. That's the first thing that's not fair. And the second thing that's not fair is to call one out as a slight against civilians or a G-side, and then not acknowledge what the Israeli military has been doing. And by the way, the proportionality is way out of whack. It's horrible that 1,200 or 1,000 or 4, whatever the number actually was, however many weren't soldiers, were unalived that day. Because soldiers are fair game when it comes to military operations. That's horrible. I'm right there with you. But it's also not fair when you unalive 20 to 30 times the number of people that you lost and claim it's some human shield bullshit. Okay? So that's what I have to say about that. So we have Zohar that's been waiting patiently. Zohar, thanks for waiting, letting me finish my rant. Here we are.
So when you talk about this situation, you have to start with the fact that the Israeli people have been protesting for 10 months against this government.
Yeah, I know.
When Benjamin Netanyahu speaks, he doesn't speak for me. Do you know Israeli politics?
Very much so. Very, very inside.
When Itamar Ben-Gvir speaks, he does not speak for me, or Bezalel Smotrich. And seeing what's happening in Gaza is horrible to the people who aren't attached to the H group, because out of all those numbers, there are...
Hey, Zohar, one second. I just want to make sure. Hey, guys, listen, if you're in the comments, let somebody share their point of view without demonizing them, please. Okay, let's be respectful. And we may learn something by hearing someone else's point of view. I think what Zohar's getting at is a lot of people in Israel hate this right-wing government. They want them out. They're trying to consolidate power by limiting the Supreme
We're
Court.
protesting
They're trying to
against them
create all
right
these rules.
now.
Yeah, exactly. So the point is that Israel is not a homogenous block of maniacs that supports what's going on in Gaza. Let's just be fair. Okay, please continue.
We've been protesting them for 10 months. Okay. I've seen people who don't believe that. Okay. So if you let me show a picture, I don't have the ability to show pictures.
You don't have to, Zara. Let me just tell the audience, okay? I've seen, before this started, I did a video about this the first week of my TikTok journey, which started on the 9th of October. And it showed the protests in my video.
It's a picture of me getting arrested, violently arrested.
Yeah, there's a huge problem right now. There's a huge divide in Israel that probably would have spilled over into some sort of major ordeal before this happened. And this sort of quelled that temporarily. But Netanyahu's under tremendous political and legal pressure.
And everything that's happening is them trying to
to
save their political careers. Now, the IDF is a completely different situation, okay? On October 7th, I woke up. I live in Tel Aviv. On October 7th, I woke up from an alarm, and before there are any operations, they talk about it in the news. We know that something might happen. We might hear an alarm, and we might have to go into shelter. But no one said anything. And I went back inside, and I didn't understand what's happening. And then a second alarm, and I opened the TV, and I'm seeing white Jeeps with, you want to call them age groups? I'm going to say what they are for a moment, and that is terrorists. Because that's what they are. Denying what happened on October 7th, including, how do you call it? Assault, S assault, whatever? I can't hear.
You can say like SA.
SA.
This stands for sexual
It's a fact that it happened. It's a fact. Denying it is anti-Semitic because there's also a war in Russia and Ukraine.
Okay, hold on. Let me just say this, okay? First of all, anybody who doesn't corroborate a story is not necessarily hating of Jewish people. That's what anti-Semitism means. So, to be fair, some people are looking at this, including myself, and when you say something's a fact, you may believe it is fact, but there's an interpretation. Whatever did happen that day happened. I don't know for sure what that was. People seem to be very certain what it was. You have my word as a gentleman. If there's any proof of what you're alleging, I will happily display it or talk about it to my audience. But to say it's factual is an incorrect statement. It's just your interpretation of what happened that day.
Okay, so a person's opinion, facts, doesn't change it. You have interviews with eyewitnesses who went to the party. I lost people that I know in that party, saying that with one firearm in a hospital next to an MRI machine. I mean, that's untrue. I have friends in the IDF. You're saying someone called, I was in another live and someone called the IDF. What, is it okay to say terrorists?
Well, they're the most well-trained terrorist force in the world, according to Miko Peled,
IDF?
an Israeli son of a general. Miko Peled, who's the son of an Israeli general who knows the military quite well in Israel, is very critical, and he calls the IDF the most well-equipped, well-trained terrorist group on the planet.
Okay, so I'm 21. My age group is serving right now. Not everyone. I was not called to serve because I have an illness, but I was supposed to serve. And most of what I'm seeing from inside of Gaza, and my friends, they're walking in there. Some of them are bombing. I have a picture of my friend playing cards with his friend. Legit playing cards. Civilian population is being so, they're being so careful next to them. And again, that's a fact. There are images of it. And I've seen a video of a kid in Gaza, and I'm really telling you, it breaks my heart. Seeing that his situation, that he needs to search for food, breaks my heart, and there's no other way to see it. But I don't know if you've seen pictures of IDF taking care of them too. I have friends who are inside.
I have. I think the clear indication I would make is I've seen instances of that occurring, and it may be more widespread than what I've seen. I've also seen many instances of the exact opposite happening, whether it be sniper fire, bulldozers, whether it be the bombs that are being dropped by the American funded and American supplied airplanes on residential areas. So I think it may be a little of both, or maybe a lot more of one versus the
Residential
other, but there must
areas
be
who were
examples of what you're saying.
evacuated. They were told to evacuate because the IDF is
Yeah.
searching for age group.
I have at least 60 videos on the phone I'm talking to you on right now that shows no evacuation, no announcement, no leaflets, no soft tap, boom, building gone.
I'm gonna look it up for you. I'm looking it up.
I know that again, it's about instances. So it's about, quantity matters in these situations. I have no doubt that in certain instances, in fact, a lot of instances, the Israelis have dropped flyers saying, please leave. They've done it recently as far as in Khan Yunis or Han Yunis to move from Han Yunis down to Rafah. And they've done it recently in Rafah saying, go somewhere else because we're coming into Rafah. Where are they supposed to go?
They were told to evacuate
So
south.
There's nowhere to go except for through the Rafah border crossing, and Egypt won't let them in, and people are charging $10,000 a head to try to get out. So it's
I
a
don't
very
know what's
difficult
going
situation
on
despite all the
within
other
the
hardships.
Palestinian.
But the point I'm making is you're mentioning instances of things occurring. I have no reason to doubt your experiences or your friends. I'm saying that they're not widely practiced, and the evidence supports them not being widely practiced. And the fact that there are instances of it doesn't negate the other part that I just
And you
described.
also talked about the people removing their clothes. I know in the United
The Israeli military has been gathering up what they say are H group members, but they're just civilians that happen to be male that live in towards the north and center part of Gaza. And this is going on in the past month,
okay,
where
so
they're told to take all their clothes off. They're taken out in cold weather and they're lined up, humiliated. And then the Israeli military takes pictures of it as far as saying we captured all these H group members. But and then they release them because they're basically just guys that are doctors, storekeepers, people like
not
that.
all of them, and one doctor was holding hostages, and that's also a fact. But
When you say a doctor was holding hostage, I never heard this before. So what, can you explain that to us, please?
one of the doctors, as well as an UNRWA person, were holding hostages in their homes. They were holding them with their children.
Where's I know everything, but as far as referencing that, is there a way we can somehow corroborate that in some way? I don't want to be difficult
Okay,
with you.
you're
I'm just saying that
saying
these are things I've never heard. That seem
you
like out
talked
of the blue.
about breaking the silence, right? It's an
Yeah.
organization that I've been really supporting, and I'm what do you call radical left, okay? I've been
Okay.
volunteering in the West Bank, which is the only occupied area in Israel, volunteering with accompanying Palestinians, farmers to their fields so they won't be attacked. And those who attack them are what you call Na'arei Gva'ot, hill people, such as Ben Gvir.
Right.
They do not represent the Israel
Yeah.
community, okay? They do not represent me. And to me, they're not part of us.
Can I just tell you thank you for doing that?
Sure.
Thank you.
Now, everyone protesting, calling free Palestine or whatever, they are also chanting Intifada. In Israel, we know the first Intifada and the second Intifada. And what it means to us is operations Palestinians from the West Bank committed when they came into the Israeli territories wearing belts and such things, and doing what you call, and I know that it happened in the USA as well, suicide bombings. And that's why those people in Gaza were stripped down, because it happens a lot of times. Now, when we hear Intifada, we remember those times when buses exploded, where cars exploded.
Real quick, I just want to say one thing. I'm sure you've been to the doctor before and they have to examine you pelvically or whatever part of your body, and you get undressed for that, right? Now, here's a question for you. Once you've had those things checked, do they keep you undressed? And in the military, I've actually done this. We processed prisoners in Iraq when I was there. I just want to make this one point. We had to go through and physically inspect every prisoner, and then they get segmented into a safe area. But once you're searched, you don't have to stay stripped down because you're in a position where you can't have additional arms. So why is it that Israel stripped these people down and kept them stripped down for a day or two at sometimes or more, which is supposedly, although it's not that serious, it's supposed to be a war crime, but I'm not going to mention that part. But I mean, why keep somebody stripped down the whole time after you've searched them?
because we don't know what's in their clothes. They keep
They can
weapons.
be inspected, Zohar. They can be inspected, which is what militaries do if they process prisoners. I've done it myself.
Israel has about 8 million people. We're currently drafting more people because we don't have enough people. We don't have the resources to do that. We really don't.
They have the resources to take their clothing off, and all it takes to check the clothing is to feel it for anything metallic or dangerous. Then you give somebody their clothes back because there's nothing in them, and you put them in a segmented area where they can't put more in them over the guard of a soldier. It only takes one soldier with an M16 or with a rifle to guard 15 or 20 detainees. These were people who weren't IDF. I'm sorry, they weren't H group. They were civilians. They had no connection with the operations on 10/7, nor did they support it. And they
Do
were
you know
told
that
off,
as a
taking their
fact?
clothes. Yeah, Israel acknowledged it when they released these people. They were released eventually.
Some of them, yeah.
They were all released. None of them were H group members.
You have many pictures
Just remember, Zohar, that H group members, where do they stay? Where do you think they stay?
everywhere, not only in the
No,
tunnels.
no, they stay in the tunnels. That's where they're safe from being unalive. They come up to engage the enemy and they duck back down, as would
We
I.
have a lot of people who are part of that H organization that is unknown, such as people who work in UNRWA. And UNRWA has declared them not a part of their organization, those specific people. You have weapons hidden in homes, in teddy bears, in normal civilian population, and that's what you call a human shield. You have kids being
That's what the
trained.
Israeli government would like us to know. That's the line that they use to try to authorize everything they do as far as their military actions.
When Bibi Netanyahu says it, I'm taking it under consideration, and until I see other proof, it's in my head. And then my friends come back from Gaza, and they tell me, yeah, you won't believe, I found it in a children's bed. And they have footage.
Well, there may be instances, again, getting back to this is all about the pervasive nature. And this is an important distinction. If there are instances of it happening, sure, it's fair to be called out. If it's pervasive and happens all the
It
time,
happens daily.
well, I'm talking about in terms of widespread. So, in fact, of hiding things, again, let me get back to the point. There's no need to hide a grenade in a child's stuffed doll in the third floor of a residential building when you have tunnels you can put them in.
But they do.
It doesn't make any sense.
Okay, but it still happens.
That's what's claimed by Israel. And their claims, again, I hate to say this, but if you don't know this, maybe you haven't seen evidence of this. I have more evidence than I care to talk about. I wish it weren't the case. I wish I could say good things about the way the Israeli government and the IDF speaks to the public, but they lie constantly. So these allegations that come out are hard to believe. That's all I'm saying. It's hard to put your head around it.
I can look it up for you right now.
Yeah. By the way, looking up an article written by the Jerusalem Post that says this stuff is the case.
I don't read the
not
Jerusalem
evidence.
Post.
Or whatever. Pick your publication. Other than Haaretz,
the most left newspaper.
And these allegations that comes from someone writing an article is not that's allegations in an article. There's not evidence to prove it. Evidence to prove it is having third-party individuals to come inspect the place as it's being encountered, not after the IDF has been in there to stage stuff.
Stage stuff? Really?
Yeah, that's what the IDF does constantly. They stage events and claim it's human shield evidence, like you're just saying. They do it all the time. I have multiple videos showing them staging things.
I'm just opening stuff up right now. Here's weapons hidden in an UNRWA bag. And I have first source, since these people are people I know since we're kids. They're 18-year-old kids.
Here's what happened. By the way, I can't speak to every instance because I don't know for sure. But here's what happens. When you see examples of it happening and then you hear new allegations of it happening, it's hard to not think of the examples where there was definitely proof that they staged it. So the Al-Shifa hospital was a great example. You probably saw this whole allegation. Oh,
there was so much found in
the terrorists are pointing. No, there wasn't. That's the whole point. The terrorists were hiding stuff behind an MRI machine with a go bag, which had other things like magazines with the different rounds, maybe a few grenades, whatever else supplies they had in the bag. Now, the initial report was there was a bag with a single rifle inside of it. Then there was another report of two, and the pictures to show it of the video. So the point is somebody had restaged the bag one way or the other because it wouldn't have both. It either would have one or the other. And the bag was completely open to see in one of the reports showing one weapon. So somebody restaged it for photographs or vice versa with the video. And secondly, the laptop that they said they found that the H group was using for its intelligence and its battle planning and all of its T scheming was an Israeli laptop with an Israeli power plug. They were so sloppy in their staging of it, they didn't even use a Gaza-based product that could only work in the Gaza electrical system because the
Okay, so
plugs used in Gaza are different.
every I don't know how to say it in English. We call it, every department of the army has its own intelligence. They go everywhere with computers to check intelligence in order for soldiers not to be killed.
But the one that they showed, Zohar, in their alleged finding of the terrorist stuff was an Israeli. They didn't make. Listen, if you're looking at a place, you don't bring your laptop in, set it down, and claim it's the enemy's. I can't even listen. The IDF claims it's so professional and so on top of its game. They wouldn't put in a video claiming that it was the evidence for the enemy and put their own laptop in the video unless it was done on purpose. It wouldn't be some random error that just happened to slide in by, our mistake. No, come on.
Let me tell you what happened in Shifa. Israel was sure, we were sure that under El Shifa is a huge age group base, like the Batcave.
I saw the allegations, the rendering that was done, the 3D render. I saw that.
It wasn't what was found. Okay, it's not a huge base.
He's taking hostage the show.
Hold on, Dawul. We'll get to it.
It wasn't what was found, but there wasn't a single bag with a rifle found there. There was a lot found there. There was a lot of weapons found in a children's kindergarten.
Well, we're switching gears here. So let me do this, Zohar. So you said you had some evidence proving some of the allegations with 10-7. You had some allegations about the different UNRWA things. I'll give you my email address, or you can do my Telegram, whichever you prefer. My email is chipbarnesonline@gmail.com.
I don't have Telegram. I deleted Telegram on
You don't have
October
to see.
7th.
I'm sure you have email, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so email me links. I'll look up the links. If the videos are too big to attach, just send me the links to the sites wherever you find them. I'll look at it. And what I'll do is I'll bring you back as a guest. And if I have the stuff that's evidentiary that backs up what you're saying, I'll bring you back on and I'll let you know, hey, I was wrong. This is happening. Is that fair?
Sure.
Let's do
I
that.
had Telegram deleted on October 7th
Okay,
because
fair enough. It's a tool. Don't worry about it. It's a tool. So it's just,
no,
we'll have
but
to
let
use
me
that
tell you
tool.
why. I had it
Okay.
deleted because people were finding out death casualties and hostages about their families through that, seeing footages. And I want to say that anyone denying SA get committed by age group is the most vile thing you can do.
Well, I'm somebody who's questioned it, but I don't deny it because I don't know for sure. Just like the existence of God, for example. I don't deny there's a God because I don't have proof there isn't, but I don't have proof there is either. So I'm not equating that religious argument to these horrific things that have been
And people
alleged.
shot in their genitals. Do you believe
Yeah,
that
and
happened?
listen, if any of these things happened that you're saying, and you're saying you're certain, you're saying it's truth or it's fact. So show me the facts. I just send it to me. I'm an open-minded guy. You'll never find somebody on the pro-Palestinian side who's more open than me. You have my word. But I've heard a lot of third-party testimony, which falls in line with a lot of the fake stuff that we've gotten over the years, and it's just hard to corroborate. That's all I'm saying. So if you have proof of it, send it, please. I'll take a look.
There's a video of age group
Yeah.
member taking a
It's just-
girl and saying,
yeah.
"Let's R her."
Well, then let's see the evidence. I've not seen that. I'm happy to look. I was told to go to a Telegram group, which is called Hamas Atrocities. I went through every
Yeah.
single post on that site. I do not see any direct evidence of those things happening. I heard a lot of hearsay, a lot of commentary. My friend said this happened. He saw this, she saw that, but no video. And I know that video doesn't always capture everything, so you have to go with some of that. But again, it's hard to trust because of if you ever heard of the story called The Boy Who Cried Wolf?
Yeah.
Okay, same thing. So I won't bore my guests with that. I'm happy to have your commentary here. If you do have things to send me, please do. I will look at it. I'll have you back as a guest. I'm going to follow you right now so we can stay in contact, okay?
And in your general life, when someone says she's been SA, do you believe it?
I don't know. I don't have a standard to apply to that. I'm not an investigator. I'm sure that there are people who do this for a living that have more experience with that. I always give the benefit of the doubt to the accuser. I don't question them and say it can't be true. but I don't know what to believe at the time of the accusation, but I think it's worthy of always investigating it to try to get to the truth.
I think anyone that questions the SA that happened that day is, it's just not, it's not convenient with your opinion and your agenda.
Now, you have every right to feel that way towards anybody who tries to get to the bottom of the truth without just taking somebody's word for it. And because you've
It
seen what
becomes
you've seen, you may.
questionable only when it's Jewish women.
No, it has nothing to do with Jewish, Arab. It doesn't, none of that matters. That's just a cop out to try to say that because somebody's Jewish, they're looking at it differently, which I'm not. It doesn't matter. Listen, I always say, I go to my video library, please. I suggest you check it out, or please do if you want to. I have a video called "If the Script Were Flipped." So if you literally replaced every single person who's Jewish with every single person who's Arab or Muslim, and the same behavior happened, but it was Arabs that did all the things that Israel has done, and vice versa, I would see it the same exact way. The players, I could care less about. It's the behavior I try to analyze. And I'm not doubting it because people are Jewish. I could give a shit. And making that allegation is a little insulting, quite frankly. Please provide me whatever evidence you have. I will look at it in earnest. And yes, I do look at evidence from Arabs and Jews. It doesn't matter to me. So
The
please send it, Zohar.
interrogation of age groups caught in
Thanks.
Israel. Did you see?
Thanks, Zohar. I've given you probably almost 30 minutes of time. I have to get some of the other guests in
Okay,
here,
wait,
but I
just
appreciate you
did you
being
see the interrogations
here.
of
Zohar, I can't keep bringing up additional topics. I apologize. Listen, if you have evidence of these interrogations and you want to share them, by all means, send me anything and everything you want to send. I will look at it. You have my word, and I'll have you back to discuss it. I promise. Okay. And by the way, thank you for your support and the way you're against the Netanyahu government. I appreciate that very much. Okay. We have Dawood wanted to say something, and then we're going to let user, and then we're going to finish up for the day.
Hi, Chip.
Hi.
First of all, for your life coming to the taking the right side and for taking the direction to the humanity, and I thank you for that. The reason I came up because this there was a lady earlier was talking about the hostage, saying that the hostage was saying that this happened to them, that happened. As we know that in Israeli government threat the people of Israel. If anybody come against them, they will jail them. They will do all kind of horrible things to them. So it might be, the government forced, tell them, to say those words that she was saying, because there was a man just came a couple days ago. I saw on the TikTok that he's actually himself as Israeli, that he was kind of like sympathizing with the Palestinian people. That's what the government was saying. So basically what they did to him, because he was siding with Palestinian people, they put him in jail and pretty much they silence him. So it goes
He was a
on
teacher.
everybody.
He was a teacher, by the way. A
Yeah,
teacher
the
in
teacher.
class was showing support for Palestine, and they put him in jail.
Exactly. So it goes same way for those hostages. So the hostages are scared from the government because whatever they want them to say, they have to say, otherwise they're gonna punish them. And it's going with all Jewish people. Right now, there's like half or maybe 60% of Jewish people want to protest. They're against this. They want to go against what the IDF and the government is doing, but the government shutting them down. And there was another video showing that Jewish people were getting beat up by the Israeli police and IDF. So those are all facts, because when you wanted to say the truth,
Let's be fair real quick. Let's be fair for a second. So the previous guest said that there are people protesting right now. I have no reason to doubt her sincerity about that. And the police may be taking different approaches based on the type of protest and the circumstances. So Israel does have a democracy. It's a little bit contorted because of the conflict in terms of how it's handling dissent. But there are protests, according to her. So I don't want to deny that. So I don't want to say that everybody who does speak out or steps out is going to be arrested. I don't think that's necessarily the case.
I mean, also, on the other hand, that they're saying like, oh, there's like 200 or whatever amount hostages, taken by the age group. But what about before the hostage was taken? What about the Palestinian people being taken hostage and thousands being tortured and being there's there's like, I believe like 4,000 or more than 4,000 people are hostage by Israeli. How come they never talk about that?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a fair point. I think that's one of the driving forces behind the mission, was that the goal was to get as many hostages as they could in order to have leverage to exchange them for some of the prisoners. And they still want to do that, I think. And I think that the Israelis that was part of the negotiation for a ceasefire that, of course, fell apart. And that's the whole point of all this, I believe. And I don't know to what extent the command. I don't know. I don't think they did, but I don't think they said go hurt civilians or go do this. I think the rules of doing that, as far as that, yes, soldiers, yes, uniformed soldiers, yes, men, women, children, elderly, no. But there were people from Gaza, by the way, if you don't know this, that weren't members of H group that moved through the breach and may have been involved in some of the atrocities. So it may have been just rabid civilians, just like we have them in America. We have these ultra right-wing people that are more violent or willing to perform violence, just like they're in Ukraine, same type of people. I can't account for that. But if the mission was, just like there may be some Israeli soldiers who happen to have weapons that are sniper weapons, who do what they do, even though they're not told to do it, they do it and no one does anything about it because they can get away with it. I don't know to what extent that happened here. Part of the problem is there's a lot of confusion. By not confirming or affirming allegations doesn't make you anti-Semitic. That's absurd. It makes you not clear, not certain. And a lack of certainty doesn't make someone a bad person. It makes them objective. And you use the word fact. And I want to be clear. There's no such thing as the word fact. Okay? There's interpretation. Whatever happened, happened. And then people have their interpretation of what happened. But without direct evidence, it may be hard to corroborate something as fact. Something does corroborate if there's a video showing an H group militant or a civilian from Gaza perpetrating an act of SA on a woman and showing her condition during and after as it happened. That's factual evidence.
Chip,
Saying that
everything is white and black. What we're seeing in internet, like TikTok and all these other social media. I mean, everything is to us. I mean, I'm not even a Palestinian, okay? I'm someone, living in the United States, but we see, what the Israelis are doing. And beside, I want to throw something, example, let's say if somebody kicked my dog, do you think my dog is not going to attack them or my dog is not going to defend himself? Do you know what I'm saying? Like if you come to my dog and you trying to attack my dog, trying to hurt my dog, what the dog reaction is going to be? Of course, he's going to attack you back and it's trying to bark at you. So it's same thing with Palestinian people. For the past 75 years, they've been, the stuff that happened to Palestinian people, we cannot ignore that. A lot of people talking about just only October 7. But what about 75 years that these people are being, their houses being demolished, their kids being killed, wife and husband, and thousands. We're talking about, if you count how many people are killed in Palestine since 75 years, as in millions. You can compare that with October 7. So
well, it's not. It's my understanding is it's not millions. It's probably in the 12 to 15,000 range before the conflict began.
No, I'm talking about 75 years.
Well, if you add up the Nakba, which was about 14,700 people, and you add up all the civilians that have been killed from that point onward, it's probably in the neighborhood of about 21,000, 22,000 before the conflict. That's my understanding.
Yeah, I wish, that this government go away, the whole thing is going to be solved. Netanyahu is the snake. He's the one that pretty much is the problem in that region. Arabs and Jews, the real Jews, and the Christians, they used to live side to side next to each other. There was no problem until the Zionists came and it created all this mess. And a lot of Jews, they're against this government. They don't even want this government. But unfortunately, it is what it is. But thank you for being on the right side of the history, Chip.
Yeah, sure.
I don't want to take much of your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks for being here. Yeah, I appreciate you being here. I don't look at myself as being on the right side of history per se. What I'm trying to do is to get to a position of objectivity as best I can and look at, where did this initially start from? And I think the real problem here was the decision to make an establishment of a Jewish state in historic Palestine And instead of incorporating people in a democratic way, it's an ethnocentric state that's based on political atheistic ideology that's based on land and acquisition. And it cloaks itself in Judaism and Jewry to accomplish its goals, to legitimize its place. And anybody who criticizes it, therefore, is against Jewish people, is anti-Semitic. That's sort of the playbook. And that's what I find most egregious, is that the family members of the descendants were pushed off their land, no fault of their own. That happened, right? It's called the Nakba. It happened in 1946 to 1948. And it was done by T groups like David Ben-Gurion's the Irgun and others that was completely trying to get Arab people to move off land. He wrote a document called Plan Dalet, D-A-L-E-T. For those of you who have not read that, go find that on the internet, Plan Dalet. It outlines exactly what they're trying to do. It's not even hidden. Just like Netanyahu has said recently, we want to have a permanent establishment in Gaza and in the occupied territory, what they call Judea and Samaria, which we call the West Bank, which the international community calls the West Bank. But I want to make it clear, I don't take the position I take because I love Arabs or Palestinians or that I hate Jewish people or vice versa. I don't give a shit about any of that stuff. It's based on what's been done to whom, by whom, in what manner. And that's not to say I agree with the resistance tactics of what was in the PLO in 1980s, what happened in this most recent attack. I don't believe in the tactics, but I understand them within the broader context. That's the key differentiation. And to say that it was peaceful on 10/6, I hate to say it, that's a bullshit take. It may have been peaceful for you if you're in Tel Aviv chilling on the beach having a good old time, but it's not peaceful for those who are getting unalived in the West Bank by rabid settlers. It's not peaceful for those in Gaza who don't have stuff. They can't go fishing. They can't get stuff into the place without smuggling it. The electricity, fuel, food, and medical supplies are all controlled from the outside in. You don't have freedom of movement. You're caged in like a rat. That's not freedom. That's not peace. That's an ongoing blockade, which is an act of war. So to claim that somehow these people just did this out of the blue, even the Secretary General at the UN, Antonio Guterres, said this very clearly. While the attacks were awful, it didn't happen in a vacuum. And the Israelis chilling on the beach in Tel Aviv claim that because of rocket fire and because of 10/7, these people are not peaceful. They're rabid. They hate Jewish people. All they want. That's bullshit. That's a very one-sided. That's the Ben Shapiro view, that everything should be given to Jewish people because they're chosen and the land is theirs from God. And therefore, anybody who resists is a T word that, as he said, blows stuff up and plays in raw sewage. That's what Ben Shapiro said. He said Arabs, all Arabs. And he said, now he clarified, he said, well, I meant the H group. No, you didn't. You said Arabs, all Arabs, not just Palestinian Arabs, but all Arabs like to play in raw sewage and blow stuff up. Now, what do you do with that? If that's not a supremacist, racist mindset, what is? And I think, unfortunately, as columnist Gideon Levy from Haaretz said, the unspoken truth about Israel is that most people in society have this unspoken arrogance and superiority complex towards Arabs, especially Palestinians. And they look down on them. And in Israel, there's about 2.1 million citizens in Israel that are of Arab descent, and a few others from different nationalities. And the claim is they have equal rights under the law. And that's true. On paper, they're supposed to be treated like anybody else. But there are also laws on the books that have all sorts of restrictive covenants against people who are not Jewish and Israeli, who happen to be of Jewish descent. They have different standards. And they also don't treat people the same. Go to Israel and talk to 1,000 people who are of Arab descent and do a poll. Do you think you're equal to an Israeli Jewish person? Yes or no? Are you treated fairly? Yes or no? Is your life as good? You're going to get a lot of no's. No, we're not treated fairly. No, we don't have an equal life. Just like in America, if you go to the urban areas where people are impoverished, and many of them are African American, and ask them, hey, you're equal under the law. Your life's just as good as, no, it's not. When you're a minority in any society, you usually get treated badly. But if you're an Arab minority, you get treated even worse by Israelis. And a lot of people don't want to admit that, but that's not my words. That's columnist Gideon Levy, who said it publicly on multiple videos. Okay? And that's what it is. I hate to say it. I wish it went the way. Okay. We have somebody here who's on coffee break. That is Sadar Tamim Khan. Let's have Sadar come on if you're ready, Sadar. You're timed out. So let's go to Freedom Philistine, and then we're going to finish up with user 448. And I got to cut it off at 5 p.m.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the way Zohar came up here and said, "Oh, well, I'm a protester for this," but then she tried to force the narrative that the essay happened. It was debunked by the New York Times just yesterday. They came out with it saying it was debunked, and it was debunked on Israeli TV, where they found all these lies, and a lot of the stories that were told by people on October 7th, they found them to be lies, and the burned, the beheaded babies and everything, the unalive babies decapitated. They found that to be
Yes.
a lie. So it's a lie after a lie after a lie, and I don't know why these people just don't get it in their head that their government lies, the IDF lies. Listen, the motto of the IDF is victory through deception. So these people think that they can continue to deceive other people and get away with it. The world
Yeah.
is awake now. We're not in 1915, we're not in 1948, and we're in 2024, where we see what's going on, we hear what's going on, we understand what's going on. The first lie that they told is that Israel was a land of no people for people. I mean, it was a land without people
With
for
it.
with a land,
Right. Yeah.
without a land. So that was the first lie. When that didn't work no more, oh, we're Jewish. This is our homeland. We were exiled out of here. The Yiddish people of Europe were not. They have no blood ties to the land. So that was another lie. And then when people tried to go against that narrative, all of a sudden, well, but the Holocaust, we were this, because of the Holocaust, we came here. That When that didn't work anymore in the United States, it became the Holocaust trick. And this was said by Rabin's wife, former Prime Minister Rabin that day on the live.
Yeah.
She said that was a trick that we used in Europe. We bring up the Holocaust to derail the statement, and in the United States we bring up anti-Semite. You know,
Yeah. I have that video, by the way. That was a guest on Democracy Now! When Amy Goodman first spoke at this. And she said, I have the video saved. I can show it to you. She said, we have a trick. If anybody from
yes,
Europe criticizes Israel, we accuse them of denying the Holocaust. If they do it in America, we accuse them of being anti Semitic. We have a lot of money and a lot of power, and that's
right,
what we do.
Chip. I don't know about you, but in the mid to late '80s, they started teaching. Teaching American military how to go against anti-Semitism.
Yeah. Hi, Chip.
Uh,
Can I go next?
Yeah,
Honestly,
you'll be next. You'll be next.
you
Yeah, I
know,
got
they
you.
they they indoctrinated that into military curriculum. Cur- uh, Lost for words.
Curriculum.
Okay, curriculum.
Curriculum.
Right. They indoctrinated that into military curriculum. Why is that, Chip? Why would they do that in the United States, where we're a nation of supposedly Christianity and things of that nature?
Well, there's a lot of accusations, and I'm trying to make heads and tails of this because I don't want to sound like a conspiracy nut. I don't want to be insensitive to Jewish people. I know that a lot of times, if you speak
No,
to this, you can be marginalized. But here's the not. Here you cannot rule out, or you can't refute the fact that if you look at the Biden administration, just the facts. If you look at what Kanye West said, he said it very in a crazy way. But what he was pointing out was factual. There are a lot of members that are dual citizenships with Israel that serve in the Biden administration, which brings up legitimate questions about loyalties or ideology. But in a lot of the industries in the United States, the whole power structure of people running the show, many people happen to be either dual citizenships, Jewish, Zionist, or all three. I don't know exactly from I don't know everybody, but there's a large numerical argument to be made that has an influence. I think that's irrefutable, and to be ostracized for pointing that out as a blood libel or something, that's bullshit. It's a legitimate thing to bring up, and I think it does have an influence. And look what's happening right now. The
yeah,
U.S. is supporting policies that are horrific.
they want to bring up that blood libel thing just to derail. That's another one of their derailment statements.
Yep,
Um,
yep, yep.
so the thing is, you know, I think some of these people need to wake up and smell the coffee. Basically, wake up and smell the coffee. I mean, she believed everything that the IDF was putting out there, or oh, my friend said this and my friend said that. That's all they can say is my friend said this, my friend said that, and we found this and we found that, and and everything that I've seen was either I've seen a lot of things that were photoshopped. You put it through, the program, and it tells you if it was photoshopped or AI generated, or so. A lot of it is just straight propaganda coming directly from the IDF, so they can do what they want to do and try to get away with what they want to get away. But I just remembered the point why I wanted to come back up here. That little 6-year-old girl that phoned the ambulances and said that she was in a car, and all the kids were that were with her sisters and elders, they were all unalive. They knew that girl was in there. They waited because, of course, they seen the TikTok video. They waited for rescue ambulances to come and get. They found the girl today. She was unalive. They found the ambulances there that were there to get her. They were unalive.
Yeah.
So they waited for the ambulance people. They came. They got her out of the car. They unalived all of them. They unalived that 6-year-old girl. And now, they're complaining about, oh, well, there's a baby hostage with one of the hostages. Well, don't you think if you had any value for babies' lives that you would not bomb like that? Any value for babies' lives. The only value they have are for the lives of the Jewish children, and that's it. They have no care, no consideration, and no empathy for the lives of the Palestinians whatsoever. So when they come up here and say, well, we're empathetic, we're protesting against the government, we don't like nothing, but they have to do what they have to do against. No, that's BS. I don't buy it. Go cry me a river somewhere else because you're full of it. Go wake up, smell the coffee, and don't be such an. I don't even want to express it the way I want to express it. Go ahead, Chip.
We cannot hear you. Your voice is muted. We cannot hear you.
So I do that all the time. Sorry about that. Thank you, Philistine. Great points. I just want to do something quickly administratively before we continue with the next guest. If you're new here, can you please type the number 1 in the chat? I do this all the time. I'm trying to keep the noise down for the speakers, and then I forget to turn it back on again. So if you're new here, yes, thank you, Sodar. I'm glad you're here. So I want to just make sure people are aware of this. So my name's Chip Barnes. I try to look at geopolitics. I learned about this issue when I was 21 years old. So I've had a little time to kind of study it. And listen, I have a point of view. It's not the point of view. It's just one that I hold because of what I've learned. But I try to understand other people's points of view. My main shtick with doing TikTok lives is I try to really be fair and let people speak. It keeps things orderly, emotionally on a level, and listen to people. Try to learn from them. If I hear something I disagree with, I share it in that spite. No ad hominem attacks. And I try to ask the members of the chat to do the same, not disparage people for their views. And listen, it's okay for somebody to believe something. In fact, many cases, I think we should be sympathetic, and here's why. Just like in my country, a lot of people are brought up to think something, American exceptionalism, the Pledge of Allegiance, we're the good guys, meanwhile, our country's doing all this crazy shit in our name, and they just don't know. And many people from Israel, and this is going to sound condescending, but a lot of them don't know what goes on in the occupied West Bank. They're told a whole different story. They really believe that when they drop these massive bombs on these civilian areas, that there's got to be an H group member holding human shields, so it's their fault. Like they get the full story. So they're taking a point of view that's based upon things they've been told. It's not even their fault. But the more people learn and they unwind their Zionist programming, the more they get to a point where like, damn, I can't support this shit. This is horrible, right? Which is fair. Many people don't get there. And they're victims of the propaganda. And they believe that we're victims of propaganda, which goes hand in hand with that. It's like a glove, right? But I do want to tell people, if you like this style, I hope you'll follow me first of all. Thank you. And then I hope you'll come back. I go live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 8 p.m. Eastern Time to 10 p.m. And by the way, this is posted as one of my messages that's on the very front of my video page. And then every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, I go live from 12 noon to 2 p.m. Eastern. And usually on Saturdays, I go a little longer. Today's been 5 hours, so I got to kind of get it tidied up here. I do have a link in my bio. Everything here is being recorded, so it does get posted on my YouTube and my Rumble channels. So if you don't know what Rumble's just another company like YouTube. It's just a different company. You can access those recordings by going to my link tree in my bio. It says Linktree Chip Barnes. If you're in the United States, it's clickable. If you're outside the United States, they don't allow you to have a clickable link, I guess, but I wrote down the text in my bio. You just have to type that text into a browser, hit enter, it'll take you to the same place. You'll see my social media links, among which is YouTube and Rumble. You'll see some groups for Telegram, which is a messaging / group thread that you can get onto for free. And you'll see the different titles. It'll make sense. And then towards the bottom, just to let you know, if you want to support my work, you can support it here on TikTok by joining as a member. But I'd actually prefer, if you don't mind, if you're going to help out, there's some donation links in the bottom of my bio, one of which is called Patreon. And I'm trying to build an independent community funded way of doing this so I can do this all the time because people seem to like it. I enjoy doing it and I'd like to do a lot more of it. But obviously, if I can't pay my bills, I got to go stand outside with the cardboard, the whole cardboard side. I'm not going to do that, but you get the idea. So thanks for your support. I appreciate it. I am going to be on again on Monday. Sometimes I go on Sundays as well, just if I feel like talking about an issue. So I want to tell you, I have a lot of great panelists, and the recording today is really good. We had a really good conversation with some pro-Israel folks, which I think it'd be good to listen to. So check it out. Okay, Abu Gaza, I apologize for the wait. What's on your mind? I hope something happened with your mic. Okay, let's let Sardar come on, and then we'll get Abu Gaza after that.
Hey, I wanna go next. Sorry for that.
Okay, no, go
Yeah.
ahead. Sorry. Wait a
Okay.
second. Abu Gaza had his mic worked out.
Okay. Yeah. And what is it called? Thank you, Chips, for bringing it up. And by the way, I have been watching you since you've been talking about it since October 8th. I remember you posting stuff. Thank you for bringing it up. So one thing I want to say is, guys, this is bigger than Palestine. This is bigger than many things. I want to say this because these people have been planning so many things from 1890 something until today. They have been planning bigger things like taking money from the USA, the 3.5 billion every single year, and also propaganda. There is a skin bank. There is so many things, guys. If you wanna,
Who is Abu Gaza?
yeah,
Who is they? Can you please be very specific?
the Zionist regime. I'm gonna say Zionist regime because Israel is not a state or a country to me because I have friends in Palestine and I stand with the Palestinians every single day. Guys, we need to speak up and we need to talk about this because this thing, it's bigger than Palestine. It's bigger than many things. So they have created what's going on in Iraq, Libya, what happened in Iraq, Libya, Syria, Yemen, Africa, South Sudan, DR Congo. All of this, they did it. They did it on purpose. They lied. They lied about Iraq. They lied about Libya, Afghanistan. All of this. And then the United States fall for those lies. And then they went there and did what they did. And they shouldn't be doing that. And they have analyzed so many civilians in Iraq, Palestine, in Iraq, Palestine, Yemen.
Yeah, Marty, we can talk about that. Marty Magoof, just to let you know, Marty Magoof just said something, not to interrupt you guys. He said, these people literally tear up posters of the hostages. I don't know which people you're talking about, Marty. I'm assuming you're not agreeing with Abu Gaza about what he's saying about that. When you get done talking about what can you also address that, Abu Gaza? Do you think it's fair for people to pull down posters of hostages, or is that inappropriate? Or please share your points on it.
Okay, yeah. Listen, the hostages, everyone, they have feelings, and the Israelis, they want to post their people posted hostages. People shouldn't be cutting or removing those kind of stuff. In a way, is inappropriate. So please, if anyone in this comments or in this live, please don't do that. Their family actually are in a bad place right now, and so please don't tear up those posters.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, the idea of getting back innocent people who were taken against their will, that's not a bad thing, right? If you're a family member, imagine if your brother, sister, mother, whatever got taken, you'd want them back safe and sound, right? So
Yes.
I couldn't agree more. Even if you disagree with Israel, these are people, not the Israeli military or the IDF. These are just human beings.
Yeah. So like I was saying, please, if you wanna learn about this, I'm gonna post a Twitter page, and it's not Chip Burns, by the way, is no graphic or anything. It's just a safe picture. So for people to go understand, it's a 10-minute video on Twitter. So can I put on the picture?
Let me make you big so you can show it,
Okay.
okay? Just a
Okay.
second.
Okay, 1 second. Yeah. So that's the Twitter. Hold on a second. The Twitter page is, his name is Ryan Dawson. Please
Yeah, I know.
go.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
like
Ryan
Ryan.
Dawson, go and watch the video. It's 10-minute video, a 12-minute video, and you will understand everything about the Israel Zionist regime and
Do
their
you have
plan.
when you show, can you show part of it right now or no?
I don't have my other phone. It's not charged, but if somebody can do that, please. It was very helpful.
So
Very, very
just
helpful.
let you know, I think Ryan Dawson ran into trouble on YouTube, so you might only find him on Rumble, at least some of his more controversial videos. So Ryan Dawson, DAW, I follow Ryan's work. I don't get to see
And
his
it,
videos as much as I
and he
would.
posted 4 hours ago, by the way. So
Okay, yeah, I
it's
have not seen
literally,
this one yet, but Ryan's really good about studying things that are controversial in the country, and he talks about stuff that's hard to talk about. So I suggest following Ryan Dawson. Again, you know, always investigate stuff you hear from people. Don't take anybody's word for anything. But I think Ryan has a lot of good things to say. So does Lucas Gage. Lucas
yeah.
Gage,
Thank you, by the
also
way,
good.
Chip. I'm gonna get going. Thank you for bringing me
Okay,
up.
yeah,
I just
great.
wanted to give that.
Thank you very much.
Have a good day. Bye.
Thanks for sharing. You too. Take care, Abu Gaza. Okay, let's go to Sardar. You are next, please.
Hi, Chip. How are you?
Okay, thanks.
Well, I'm in the United States for almost 40 years, and I'm Muslim. Of course, we love this country, but in the past 4 or 5 months, I'm really confused that what's going on in this world. Why are we targeting all Muslims in the world? It's kind of confusing. And another thing is Israeli government, whatever they're doing right now, they should know one more thing, that everything you do in this world has a consequences, and it will come back. It will backfire. And they should know they're not going to get away from any of these crimes they do. They better know that. So what they're doing, whatever they're doing to these poor people, Palestinian poor people, whatever they're doing, it will comes to them 10 times. I'm not saying that because it's just the way this world is. You know, how many imperator, how many dictator, how many that last forever in this world, right? They all fall down eventually. When they did something wrong, they all fall down. So I just wanted to just tell that to all Israelis, that be careful what you're doing. It comes back to you eventually. So, you know, we want this world to be a peaceful world, not war zone for everybody. Just, you know, I come do something to you and you come back, do something to me. And then I go make myself stronger and do something bad, worse than before to you. So basically what they're doing is creating a world that we don't want to live in. This is not the world our kids want to live in. This is not the world that has a future, because if we, you know, hit each other and, you know, just do whatever we want to do, we'll take whatever we want to take, eventually, you know, somebody's going to have a bigger hand and will smash you. So that's it. You know, I just wanted to say that And I pray for the peace, for the world peace, and that another thing, Israelis, they're pushing their luck too much. And Muslims, I know there's 2 billion Muslims in the world. Maybe the governments are staying quiet, but those people not gonna quiet. They're gonna, as we speak, they're all very angry and they're waiting for opportunity. So don't, if I were Israelis right now, I would take it easy and I will try to look for a solution instead of keep, going with the genocide and, killing all those innocent babies and unaliving all those babies and women and children. I mean, until when are you gonna do that? Until there will be nothing out of those 2 point some million people, Palestinian in Gaza. You want to kill them all? I mean, that's not fair. Fair is fair, but when it's not fair, we have to speak up. If we are American or Russian or Muslim or anything, we have to speak up because this is not humanity. This is not, how can they say we have a religion, we have a God, when they're unaliving a baby that doesn't know her or his name yet?
Yeah.
What kind of humanity is this? What kind of God you have?
So it
What
doesn't.
kind of
It has
religion?
nothing to do. I'm sorry. I don't mean to cut you off. I apologize.
Yeah, let's wait till he's finished. I'll get you on a second, George. You're next. Let's do this, Hunter. You made your point. I appreciate that very much. I want to say one thing before we go to George, and that is to be fair, okay? What happened on 10/7 with regard to civilians is equally condemnable because, listen, in the end, unalived is unalived. However it happens, it's just people aren't gone. So I know the numbers have been disproportionate on the Palestinian side, but in terms of just general approach, I catch a lot of flack for not talking enough about what happened on 10/7 and the hostages. And I agree from the Israeli point of view that both of those are worthy of condemnation. Just as whatever happens to civilians that's not completely accidental, which unfortunately it appears in many cases. We have direct evidence for many, many cases. We have a lot of supposition on others. I tend to think that it's a high number that's unfortunately not accidental. It's horrible on both sides. And I think the average person doesn't want any civilian to be harmed. They're decent people like you and I or anybody else. But looking at the longer term of this thing, that's where I have trouble with it because, what was the fault of Palestinians in 1948? What the hell did they do to deserve this? Nothing, right? And I understand the goals from the other side. They want to have a homeland for Jewish people. Great, good, excellent. But it wasn't a land without a people for a people without a land. And that's the story. I don't like people saying crap like that. That's a lie. So you can say, like I do about North America, my forefathers stole this land by mass unaliving and genociding the indigenous population. That's the truth. And I hate to acknowledge it, but it is true. I live here as a benefit because of that. If Israelis would say, yeah, we forced Arabs off their land, tough shit, we took it because we could. They tried to attack us, we've repelled them. We took more land in 1967 because we perceived a threat. We took that again. We're maintaining our occupation militarily because we want to keep these people from harming us. And we're going to do whatever the hell we want to do to get there. And with this particular situation, because of the harm we endured, we're going to do even more than usual. And we're going to do whatever the hell we want to do again and take what we feel like we want to take. That's honesty. I would accept that as honest, but not all the other obfuscations and BS that we get. George, what do you think about that? And what else do you want to say?
Yeah, I want to echo your sentiment 100%. It has nothing to do with religion at all. I'm Palestinian American. Last time I was in Palestine, a boy, we were visiting some family because we all know that 70% of the population in Jordan are Palestinians displaced from Palestine. So we were visiting family there, and I ended up going there just as a child when things weren't as volatile. I'm Palestinian American. I'm for a one-state solution with not attached to any religion at all. I'm for a secular one-state solution. And that's why whenever I'm on my platform, and I've been talking about it for a couple of years, and one of my biggest things that I talk about is that we have to break the narrative of things like all Palestinians are of a certain faith or all Palestinians are want a religious state, or all Palestinians are a certain ethnicity or whatever. Like for example, I'm Palestinian, but I'm not Arab, and I don't follow the majority faith, and things like that usually and often go on. Like people don't just like overlook them. Like for example, there's a huge Palestinian minority population of different ethnicities, and that's what I educate about, and that's what I talk about. So that's why when I heard religion being brought into it, that's why I jumped off my mic. I apologize. But yeah, that's what I wanted to say about what the matter.
George, thank you for coming on. Thanks for appreciate you being here. Thank you very much. So somebody in the comments said, I'm going to tell you his name. I think it's fair. I don't remember the name exactly, but that the one state solution is never going to happen. I agree, actually. Anand Abraham 572. I believe this is somebody else who's used another name on here before, and has come on as a guest, same photograph, who hasn't been very pleasant, by the way. I wish he would change his style. His content is certainly fair to share, but his style's a little bit disrespectful, I think. But whatever, everybody's got their choice. But let's talk about that for a second. So why is a one-state solution not practical? I think it is the right thing to do, by the way, given the physical territorial layout, because let's face it, Israel has pretty much taken a large swath of the West Bank. And that's not going to change, I don't think. So it has to be a one-state solution. Why won't they allow that to happen? Because they'll immediately lose political control if it stays a democratic state. And they'll have a substantial, even if it is a minority that stays in it's going to be a very, very substantially politically different situation. It's no longer going to be a dominant ethnocentric Jewish state. And so therefore that won't be allowed to happen. Now, where does that leave us? If there can't be a one-state solution and there won't be a two-state solution because of the non-contiguous landmass that's been settled by Israel, where does that leave things? And that's a fair question to ask. I don't know. I think what would be fair to do, and I'm not saying it could happen, it would be fair for Israel to dismantle and evacuate all the settlements that have been illegal and everyone is condemned, including the United States, for many decades, and get the hell out. Should have never been there in the first place. Totally legal war of aggression. Everybody agrees except for Israel. They maintain they did it because they had to for their security. I call bullshit. And so does everybody else except for Israel. The problem is possession being 9/10 of the law. They have physical troops there. Nobody seems to want to fight the U.S. who's backing them. I don't blame them. But that would be the right thing to do. And I think the H group in their revised 2017 charter said as much. They removed the language about the Jewish people. They talked about the land not being recognized as the state of Israel. But they got rid of the language about going after Jewish people. And they put in the language of we're willing to accept that, the compromise I just mentioned, if they're willing to do it. And the thing is, Israel's never given them a full chance. Yes, they withdrew settlements from Gaza in 2005, but why was there a response militarily based on the H group? Why were they sending rockets? Because they were unhappy about the territory? No, that was great to get some land back, but it's like somebody stealing your car 15 years ago and going, hey, I brought your car back. You're lucky. Here you go. You're welcome. I'm giving you this. No, you're not giving me shit. You stole my car, dude. You don't have the right to give it back to me. How gracious of you, right? The attitude is so arrogant. But the other part of it is this. The Palestinian people identify as one people, even if they have political differences as to how to resist or deal with the occupation and the blockade. And therefore, it doesn't make them bad, but they love their countrymen, even though the political system is broken, is fragmented. And so if one group is still oppressed, it's part of you. It's like part of you is oppressed. And therefore, rocket fire to resist. No, it's not that we gave you something and all you gave back was violence. If the entirety of the occupied territory and Gaza was left by Israel, you wouldn't have rocket fire because they don't hate Jewish people or Israelis. They hate being subjugated to someone else's control as they would. And we saw what happened in Warsaw, Poland, right? It is natural if you have people that are militant minded to fight back against oppression. Now, of course, different circumstances, different government, different systematic processes. I agree, but it's the mental theme that goes through being oppressed that I'm talking about. And why that can't be acknowledged, I don't understand that, because in my country, in the 1770s, we resisted. Our forefathers, they're called heroes in our country, the founding fathers, as it were. They're lauded as these great men. Of course, they were white landowning men who had, a lot of cases, there was slavery in different places. So, well, they weren't great people, but they were considered great because they resisted British occupation. And they used tactics that were unconventional. They were called, wait for it, terrorists by the British, right? They were called terrorists. So therefore, resisting occupation is a normal thing to do. And how you can criticize somebody, international law says if somebody's blockading you, somebody's occupying you illegally, militarily, you have the right to. And it doesn't say you have to fight fair and call somebody up on Saturday morning, hey, you line up 5,000 of your people over. No, that's not how it works. It says by whatever means available. And that's not to excuse the civilian aspects of 10-7. Nothing can do that. And if there's going to be war crime tribunals, it's fair to get the soldiers who did the things to civilians on 10-7 as it is to the military structure in Israel who's done the same during this campaign. That's fair. That's being equivalent. But the damage done is far greater by the Israelis in terms of human suffering and death. There's no comparison, right? I think that's being reasonable. So I don't see it resolving itself as long as the U.S. is going to back Israel. That is the power structure that's causing this to perpetuate. Let's be straight. If the U.S. pulled the money and they pulled the military backing, there'd be a much, much different situation. And I don't want that to happen. I don't want there to be conflict. But I kind of think, and again, I don't say this lightly because I mentioned this on my Twitter. I didn't phrase it well. But I do believe that Israel deserves whatever happens to it, the Zionist mindset and the Zionist political ideology. I don't want Israeli citizens to get hurt, but I mean the governing apparatus deserves whatever has coming to it. Just like Israelis believe the H group membership and leadership has what's coming to them, right? Both sides do wrong things. But Israel is the ultimate problem here because it started all this, right? It started everything. 10-7 was not a starting point for this. On 10-6, as I like to say, somebody who's chilling on the beach in Tel Aviv, who normally would be training with the IDF because they're 21 or whatever they are, they were chilling, listening to music, having a good time, making TikToks. Oh, isn't life good? This is great. Life is fun. Meanwhile, 30, 40 miles to the east, you have people that are being unalived by settlers, that are being beaten by police, that are being, their house being demolished, their crops being torn down. You name it, that has been happening to them. So how can you have those two circumstances and reconcile that? If you're someone chilling in Tel Aviv, you're basically supporting what your government is doing by not speaking out about it. You're chilling on a damn beach, drinking alcohol and doing whatever you're doing, right? That's not acceptable. So if you're going to support the occupation, just like German people supported what was going on in World War II, if you're in Dresden and something falls on you, you kind of deserve it. I hate to say it. And if you're going to convey that Palestinians in Gaza deserve what they get because of their support for the H group, the administrative plus the militants, well, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And if Hezbollah gets involved in this, I'm just letting people know, if you're chilling in Tel Aviv, you're not going to be chilling really well. And your shelters aren't going to do you a damn bit of good because everything is going to get smashed to bits. And that's just what's going on. That's the damn truth. Look at Scott Ritter. He talks about it. Colonel Douglas McGregor. I think that Israel is trying to draw in a broader conflict to draw the Americans in so they can further their plans and destroy their neighbors with American power. Now, do I think the average Israeli is no, they're not bad people. Just like the average person in Gaza is not a bad person. But they're being misled and lied to by their leaders, especially in Israel. I think in Gaza, everybody pretty much knows what the deal is. But in Israel, they paint this picture of a rosy, we're just sitting here and all they want to do is hurt us. Oh, woe is us. Why would they do this to us? They're the bad guys. We're the peaceful people, and all they want to do, they love death. We love life. They love death, right? You hear this bullshit all the time, right? I think that's garbage. And because I speak out this way very vociferously, I'm targeted as being anti-Semitic or a bad dude, just like Ryan Dawson and Lucas Gage and others that have the courage to speak out against it. I've never once said I'm against Jewish people. Never once. I've always said I'm against Zionism, which is the worst political settler ideology that comes out of a system that cloaks itself in Judaism. And the same criticism is levied by Orthodox Jewish people who were at the pro-Israel protest that I went to, the pro-Israel rally in DC. They were there protesting Israel. I feel very similar to them. I'm for Jewish people having self-determination and freedom and safety and all those great things, but not at the expense of another people. That's not fair. And that's what's happening. So I don't know how else I can phrase it in a way that's acceptable, except for I understand the other side's thinking. I just disagree with it. Okay, that's kind of where I am with it. We got one more guest here, Ehab, and then let's go with, let me see if this new guest is coming up. He didn't come through. So I just want to mention one more time, that's this. This is all being recorded. So you may hate what I'm saying, you may love what I'm saying, or maybe you don't even know much about this. You're trying to tap in and see what's up. So you can go watch it again. There's been some great guests, some good dialogue back and forth, some decent arguments that have hopefully been done in a civil and, respectable manner, which is my whole way of trying to do things, because that's the only way we learn from each other, right? Yelling past each other doesn't do anything. So it's on my YouTube and my Rumble channel. Now, if something is too big a file size, which a lot of the ones that go past 4 hours are too big to upload to Rumble, I either have to split them into part 1, part 2, or I just put it on YouTube. So you're going to see all my videos on YouTube. And I think the last time I had one that lasted 9 hours, I didn't put it up on Rumble. It's just too big a file. I didn't feel like editing it. But anyway, so we've had a lot of people up today. Thanks for being here, everybody. I got to do some other stuff. I've been on this thing since 12 noon. It's almost 5.25 hours later, 5.5 hours. So yeah, you can watch it. You can watch it on multiple speeds on YouTube too. You can change the playback speed. So I really want to thank everybody who came up. The guests, especially the ones who disagree with me. Thank you for being here. If you're still listening or if you're watching this at a later date, thank you. I appreciate your point of view. And if we disagree on something, if I say something you think is wrong, please send me evidence. I'll give you my email address. It's chipbarnesonline@gmail.com. Please don't send me some news article that says John Smith talked to Jane Doe who said this. That's not evidence. Somebody says go drive Uber. Maybe I will, Mindy. Thanks for the suggestion. Yeah, by the way, some people have accused me of doing this for money. And so I do have to drive for Uber, unfortunately, because I don't have that much income coming in. I've been doing some trading, but it's mostly break even. So I'm very transparent when it comes to my life, or probably too much so. But, I'm like everybody else here. I'm trying to make what I can to get by. Some people want more money. I've had more money before. Running businesses, it didn't make me any happier. In fact, all the stuff I was dealing with was, extra stuff. I don't want that anymore. Taking the dog out in the woods and, just doing this kind of stuff, this is what I enjoy. So this is what I want to do more of. I might be in big trouble for doing this. Hell, I don't know. Maybe somebody one day is going to decide I'm no longer welcome on this lovely planet. I hope not, but that may be the way my fate goes. And if it does, I did what I could while I could in a way that I thought was, right in terms of what I say. I'm trying not to be mean to anybody. Anyway, that's what I got for today, everybody. The other thing I want to make mention of lastly is that my schedule is Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 8 p.m. Eastern to 10 p.m. Eastern. And then every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, it's 12 noon to 2 p.m. during the weekdays. Obviously, on the weekend, I have a little more flexibility, so we went longer today. So I want to thank everybody for being here, the guests especially, and those are in the comments for your different points of view. I really appreciate everybody being here because I can't do this without the audience. And so if you want to support me, which I hope you will, but I'm not going to put pressure on people, I have a little Patreon in my link in bio. It says Linktree Chip Barnes. It's $5 a month. My goal is to build a big enough following to get enough $5 donations that I can, just do this. But as somebody said, go drive for Uber. That's probably what I have to do for tonight because it's a Saturday. Good night for doing Uber. By the way, if you don't know, I'd like to talk about Uber one time. They've cut the driver pay by about a third since April of 2023. So obviously it's not even worth it to do it. You have to have like a really busy time when the prices surge up, and otherwise that's why I haven't been doing it, because it just destroys your car. Anyway, that's what I got for today, Saturday. I may do an impromptu one tomorrow, so keep an eye out. Please go to my videos, please, if you don't mind. Check out, I have a lot of great videos on all these subjects. And if you like one, please repost it, like it, and please leave a comment, because I love to hear from people. I go through all the comments and I answer as many as I can. Okay? Thanks for being here, everybody. I will see you, if not tomorrow, I'll see you on Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern.